powerful voices tackling the issues that affect us all. So let's get started with The Source.
Sharper than a razor, eyes made of lasers, bolder than the truth. They want me locked up in the system, 'cause I'm on a mission. Blame it on my youth. Good afternoon, it is Thursday. I have been sitting in front of a computer screen for hours all week long. You are listening to The Source, 96.1 FM, 900 AM, streaming live on WURDradio.com. Follow us on all social media platforms at onWURD. 215-634-8065 is a number to call in. I'm so tired, I'm happy. If you are hearing the sound of my voice, I am Andrea Lawful Sanders, and I am your host on Mondays, Tuesdays, and Thursdays from 1 to 4 p.m. Let me tell you, Marva is about to start this show off hot, crack, popper, snap. So get yourselves together. We could not end this week without calling a few things to the carpet, you know, and addressing leadership or the lack thereof in these here Wakandan streets. So let me just get started, and we're going to do our quickly do our Black History Fact, which is going to tie into the other stuff that I want to talk about. Today, we are highlighting Dr. Ayla Stanford, MD, FAAP, FACS, is an experienced physician with an impeccable record of delivering patient care. With distinctive specialty qualifications, she cares for both children and adults, being double boarded and certified by the American Board of Surgery in both general adult and pediatric general and thoracic surgery. She brings her training and experience to benefit the individuals she cares for by attending to a spectrum of patients from a newborn to baby boomers and beyond. Dr. Stanford has cared for and operated upon patients in North America and internationally for 20 years. However, over the past 6 years, she embarked on a medical concierge business after being referred to care for an A-list entertainer by one of her surgical mentors from Harvard University. That A-list entertainer was Will Smith, who was also from Philadelphia. Her business has blossomed with the founding Real Concierge Medicine Company. This boutique concierge medical service has as its clients A-list Hollywood entertainers and business executives, their families and friends. All referrals are word of mouth and care handled with an expected anonymity. Now, I read that short bio to you because the Dr. Ayla Stanford that I read from the bio gave up all of that to take care of her Black and brown community. The interesting thing about her is that the WURD listening audience and everybody who's running after her now and making her feel so wonderful and great, no one really knew of her because she was so quietly doing what she did. She was traveling to Haiti, making sure she was taking care of people, taking care of folks here. And what ended up happening was, because I had known her from church where I was attending Salem, and her brother Kamal, who I just absolutely love. He is a pistol. I invited her on March of 2020, March 10th of 2020, to come to WURD Radio as a Black Woman of Excellence for Women's History Month. And she walked into the studios. You've heard me say this story time and again. And we began talking about coronavirus. And she said to me, don't travel. I was getting ready to travel. She said, don't you dare. I had just come off a plane, too. She said, don't you dare travel anymore. And this is why. And she began giving the WURD audience what they needed to hear. What struck her as we were having that conversation was how many people were calling in and saying it's a hoax, the virus isn't real, it's not for Black people. And so when she got off the line she was in the studios. When she got off the air that day, she and I talked, and I said, how about if you come on several times a week so we can let people know? And there began our journey. That is how all of you became very familiar and accustomed to her. Now, when I was bringing on Dr. Ayla every day to talk about coronavirus, I had folks saying to me, well, why you keep doing this? Why you keep doing this? But it worked. People started listening to her. They started hearing what she had to say, and what she was saying made perfect sense. So this was March. By April of 2020, Dr. Ayla came back on the show and said to me, after we had been doing this for weeks, she said, Andrea, I've got to start something. And that's when she decided to form the Black Doctors COVID-19 Consortium. People were not being able to get tested. They were being told that they had to go somewhere else, that they couldn't come. They were not considered, frontline workers. They had to have a doctor's note. They had to have insurance. And this woman stopped that practice that you heard me talking about, where she was doing real concierge medicine and doing surgeries on babies in Abington Memorial Hospital, because she has an office here in Abington. She stopped all of that. She put it on hold because she really thought it was only going to be for a little while. She put it on hold and decided to start testing the people in our communities, the Black and brown communities, without charge. Did you hear what I said? Not a dime. She started out with her own monies in her pocket, went to several churches, Salem, Enon, and a few others, and said, if I can use your buildings to test people. She then pulled together doctors and nurses and other community members as volunteers, and they all began volunteering their time. When we realized what she was doing, the community jumped up and decided to start supporting her. So there was a GoFundMe page, and so off we were going. Now, let me tell you what strikes me about Dr. Ayla, and I just need you all to be very clear about this. I called her last night. I texted her yesterday. She called me last night, and we began having a good conversation. Now, like any real journalist and a friend, there's some things about our conversation that I will not disclose. But let me say this to you. Yesterday, she went on the air and did a press conference and spoke about the fact that she was shutting down the portal for registration for the coronavirus vaccine. And when I was talking to her, and I wrote a whole article about this, she said, Andrea, I am there vaccinating people in North Philadelphia, and folks were pulling up in their Mercedes and their Teslas who were never, she said, when we were talking to folks and we were testing them, we didn't see any of these people. And she said they were coming and demanding to be vaccinated. So I'm going to give you this. She said when they opened the portal on January 11th for 2021 for vaccinations, they started with 96% Black folks registering. It is now only 50%. And then she said they started out with vaccinating 89.2% Black folks, and now it's 50%. And she said the white folks, 67% of them are showing up in North Philadelphia and wherever she is. And she just got frustrated. There are 46,000 people now in the portal, and she decided to make an executive decision to shut it down. And so when I talked to her last night, she said, this is what we're going to do. And she wanted me to tell all of you this. Those of you who are already registered for your vaccinations, they're going through the emails, the list now, and you will get your email. If you're eligible, your email will come to you, and you will, if you live in the city of Philadelphia, whatever, your email will come to you, and you will get vaccinated. She said the ultimate goal is to vaccinate everybody by about March 1st that is in this list that's been waiting. And then by March 1st, they're going to open it up. So let's say they're meeting at Enon on March 1st. she's just going to open it up on a first come, first serve basis, because she said she saw so many elderly people who wanted to be vaccinated, who needed to be vaccinated, and they just could not get in because they didn't have computer access, whatever. So she is the person that has made me so happy in terms of locally in our community, as someone who stepped up, gave her time, her energy, her own money. Now, I have now somebody who is about to call. It's about to be a good conversation. Start recording. Karen A. Robinson, MPA. She is the president of Kinnaman Holdings. And I don't want to go through all of this. I just want to make sure that, because she has a very long and esteemed bio. So I'm just going to say this. Since 2015, Ms. Robinson has been a senior advisor to a center at Yale School of Medicine, advising on business development and strategic cross-sectoral planning for the development and dissemination of research that informs evidence-based policy and practice, serving to support Yale students, faculty, and others interested in conducting state-of-the-art health equity research. Karen A. Robinson, thank you for joining us. Good afternoon.
My pleasure. Thank you for having me. I do have one quick request.
Are you ready?
Well, yes, but if Dr. Alla hears this, or if you speak to her again, and she knows who I am, we've had a couple of conversations. I recognize she's overwhelmed, but I have emailed her, I've texted her, and I've left a phone message. I have some sources of vaccines who would like to talk to her and provide some product to her. So I just need her to reach back to me, okay?
All right, I will. And it's so funny. I talked to her yesterday. I'll reach back out to her again today, and I'll let her know that you have sources for vaccines, because on top of that, the National Cares Mentoring Movement, in partnership with some other organizations, are getting ready to deliver massive amounts of KN95 masks and gloves and sanitizers, and I'm talking massive amounts. So the two largest groups that I chose was the Black Doctor COVID-19 Consortium and the School District of Philadelphia, because the vulnerable populations, the children. You and I are talking because an article came out about the PHMC, affectionately known as
PHMC. PHMC is Public Health Management Corporation. That is a federally qualified health center that really initially started out as a community health center as part of Lyndon Johnson's Great Society. It did not evolve into a federally qualified health center until the early 80s, when the federal legislation had evolved and revised to really begin to more aggressively meet the needs of rural and urban, medically underserved populations.
Okay. And so...
Yes, ma'am.
And so there was an article that came out that PHMC was given a certain amount of vaccinations, thousands of them, and that they were to give them to their vulnerable populations. And what they ended up doing was giving thousands of them to people who were not eligible, et cetera, et cetera. What do we need to know about PHMC that is evidence-based?
Well, what's evidence-based is that PHMC is the largest of 15 federally qualified health centers in the city of Philadelphia. They operate 70 sites. That's 70 sites and 350 programs here in Philadelphia County alone. Just to give you an idea of size. When you talk about the resources they have to deploy, because I want you to appreciate that this is just not a small community health center. This organization has evolved and become a large nonprofit medical corporation. Covenant House has gross receipts for last year of $5,800,000. I'm rounding. Delaware Valley Community Health, $43 million. Esperanza Health, $21 million. Greater Philadelphia Health Action, $67 million. PHMC, Public Health Management Corp.
700 million, right?
Excuse me, 200 million. 200 million recorded on GuideStar, which is the nonprofit reporting agency or reporting organization that takes annual reports and publishes them. 200 million. Warren Smith, Smith, a minority-controlled FQHC, 11 million. Spectrum Health Services from West Philadelphia, 12 million in assets. So what has happened is, and it's a solid question, as to whether you have what is still technically a federally qualified health center, which is supposed to have its board consist of predominantly representatives of the community, representatives of, there's supposed to be no more than the majority of the board. This is according to HRSA, which is the Health Resources and Services Administration, which oversees FQHCs. Majority of the board, 51% of the health center's board must be patients served by the health center. They must, as a group, represent individuals who are served by the health center in terms of demographic factors such as race, ethnicity, and gender. And then the non-patient health center boards, no more than one half may derive more than 10% of their annual income from the healthcare industry. It's really, really, really specific. Yet when you turn around and take a look at the board of PHMC, you have, for example, the executive director of Penn Presbyterian Medical Center, a senior vice president from Independence Blue Cross, a member, a lawyer at Blank Rome, the CEO of Big Brothers and Big Sisters, the director of emergency medicine at St. John Thomas Jefferson, the CEO of United Healthcare Community Plan, a professor at the Philadelphia College of Pharmacy.
So wait, where are the 51% of the patients?
Well, I'm still trying. That's a good question. What you have
are there board members paid?
A corporation that has 3,000 employees. Think about that. A nonprofit healthcare delivery system that has 3,000 employees. Now, am I saying that they provide poor quality of care? No. Am I saying that, it's a racket? Absolutely not. Am I saying, though, that it has become a corporation now that doesn't necessarily reflect the community it's supposed to serve from a executive C-suite office? I'm suggesting that it has become too large. And the decision, for example, City of Philadelphia awarded $100 million to PHMC and $100 million to, what was this group here? Philadelphia Mental Health Care Corporation, which is a quasi-governmental nonprofit that was created by the city to do special healthcare-related things. Okay? PHMC, Dr. Allah approached them because she was doing testing before they were and was rejected. The response was, no, we can't give you any of this $100 million because the city tells us who to give it to.
Mm-hmm.
All right.
Karen, hold on 1 second, because I want us to continue.
Sure.
I want to continue this, and then when I come back, I'll introduce you again to people because they're saying they don't recognize your name or voice. If only they knew. You hold on 1 second. You are listening to The Source, 96.1 FM, 900 AM, streaming live on WURDradio.com. Follow us on all social media platforms at onWURD. 215-634-8065 is the number to call in. We will be right back after these messages.
Happy New Year, Philly. It's Solomon Jones. The pandemic of 2020 blew the roof off of life as we know it and forced us to make radical decisions once thought impossible. Many parents and grandparents turned to the option of a public cyber education. In thousands of instances, they sought assistance from the one true pioneer and industry leader in public cyber education, Commonwealth Charter Academy. Visit ccaeducate.me and exercise your right to choose a safe, hassle-free, student-focused learning environment your kids deserve. CCA delivers elite online instruction streamed directly to the safety and comfort of your living room. They provide a laptop and headset along with internet connectivity that includes financial assistance, all at no cost to families. CCA has been the gold standard in school choice for nearly 20 years. Visit ccaeducate.me and ring in 2021 with a 5-star learning experience. Again, that's ccaeducate.me.
I'm Anthony McLaurin. Been denied insurance? Call 888-307-0505. Life insurance, age 0 to 85, no examination needed. Homeowners insurance, any home, any condition, same-day coverage, 888-307-0505. Auto insurance, we can have you covered in 15 minutes. Business insurance, call 24 hours a day, 888-307-0505. I'm Anthony McLaurin. When you need insurance, I can help.
Okay, Her's new fire potato chips and cheese curls, they are spicy. Whew, they're hottest snacks yet. Hold on. Whew. But you know, it's not just heat. There's some nice sweet and savory stuff going on too. Ooh, there's that heat again. It burns, but it burns so tasty. Ooh, that's hot. Find Her's Fire Snacks at your store today. Whew. Taste the flavor, feel the heat, break out the Her's.
WURD Radio is independent black media. And we're able to stay independent because of our 4WURD movement and members like you.
Treat yourself to the treat of buying a WURD membership. It's less than a quarter a day. That's less than a bag of chips. And we really, truly need to keep this platform going so that we can stay connected as we reimagine our community in 2021.
Start or renew your 4WURD membership today at wordradio.com/4WURD or call 215-425-7875. WURD Radio. Independent black media.
You're listening to The Source with Andrea Lawful Sanders on WURD Radio. Streaming live on WURDradio.com and the WURD Radio app.
Welcome back to The Source. If you're just joining us, I have on the line with me Karen A. Robinson, MPA, President of Kinnaman Holdings. I'm going to read a little bit of her bio. Her professional path in healthcare started in 1976 as a health system agency, certificate of need reviewer in Newark, New Jersey. She participated in the implementation of the Medicaid waiver program in the city and was designed as a co-bankruptcy trustee representative for the reorganization of United Hospital. Ms. Robinson was also included in the cohort that created the economic modeling for the diagnostic-related group trial in the state of New Jersey. She was also appointed adjunct faculty at Columbia University School of Public Health, developing and implementing educational training programs for consumers and providers participating in the national, regional health planning and review mandates. In other words, I have someone on here that had the receipts, right? And I'm introducing Karen A. Robinson to some of you, many of you, the same way I introduced Dr. Ayla Stanford. She's someone you must want to get to know because she has been about this business. So I posted the article about PHMA, was sent to me, was from WHYY. It was sent to me, and I posted it on my social media page, and she said, "This one burns my biscuits." Can you tell us why? Karen Robinson. Thank you for being here.
I appreciate. It burns the proverbial biscuit.
You sound very far away, Karen.
I'm sorry. All right, I'm going to switch over here.
Okay.
Give me 1 second. Is this better?
Much better. Thank you.
Okay, I apologize. It's symbiotic of the arrogance is the best way I can put it. It is symbiotic of what happens when you have an organization that provides services but has become disconnected from the population it serves.
Mm-hmm.
It's symbiotic of the fact that what is supposed to be a community-based organization that has a designation as a federally qualified health center that has now become a corporation, that has so many businesses under its umbrella that this kind of decision-making, the decision to provide vaccines to all employees regardless of eligibility, not one of the smaller organizations would even think of doing that, I would dare say.
Right.
Because of the recognition of the population they're supposed to be taking care of. The misdirection of those, or the reallocation of those vaccines to staff is unconscionable.
How do we hold them accountable, Karen? Because, of course, dead silence from from the city on every level, right, as it applies to this. All we heard was, well, they're not supposed to be doing that. And I feel like some days we're talking to fifth graders who, instead of coming to the table and saying, look, let's hold ourselves accountable here, we just kind of brush it off and nothing to see here and move right along. So how do we hold an organization like PHMC accountable for, they're supposed to serve a needy population. Their board is supposed to be comprised of 51% of the people that they're serving. And so where do we go from here with someone like this? Because they have big...
To the very people who credential them. And the very people who credential them are the Health Resources and Services Administration in Washington, D.C.
Okay. So the Health Resources and Service... say that again, Karen. Let me hear. The Health Resources and who?
Health Resources and Services Administration. HRSA.gov. That is the organization. H as in Harry, R as in Robin, S as in Sam, A as in Apple. .gov.
Okay. All right. And who is this organization?
Is the organization that credentials, certifies all federally qualified health centers in the United States.
Okay.
At the end of the day, that is the group where the buck stops.
Okay.
If you want accountability, you raise it there.
Okay.
Because the inside baseball is what I call it, of the of having an organization as large as they are, as PHMC is, and it doesn't happen inorganically. It happens because of a president who has been in that seat since the early 80s. It happens because of relationships, political relationships that have been built, not just with city council, but with all of the mayors that have sat in that seat at City Hall. And they have become behemoths. They have become so large, sort of like a bank that can't fail. So
and that's what people are saying here, yeah?
And that's what you have. I have to share with you that with this new administration and the possibility of more federally qualified health centers being deployed throughout the country, because there are about 1,500 right now, and with the epidemic and the impact that has that it's had on not just healthcare delivery systems, but economically, it's part of the pandemic plan to put a program like that together and get it through Congress to be rolled out. But we have made sure that on the agenda, at least, is a review of those federally qualified health centers that have become larger than life, and a solid questioning as to whether those organizations have lost sight of the mission.
So,
those
how do we
need to be addressed to HRSA?
So people need to reach out to
to the Health Resources and Services Administration
at the federal level.
Yes.
So it's hrsa.gov, and they're the ones that credentials, qualifies, and certifies groups like the PHMC, right?
That is correct.
All right.
Yes.
All right. So, someone is asking, what's the difference between PHMC and PHMCC?
Okay.
PMHCC.
PHMC is a federally qualified health center. Okay. PMHCC is a nonprofit that was originally created to umbrella projects that would impact the city financially, but would be funded by external organizations. So those healthcare related and behavioral healthcare related projects were umbrellaed under PMHCC.
Good Lord.
One of those projects was the 1260 Housing Corporation, which I chaired back in the 80s, which created the supportive housing for patients being released from Byberry when the state decided to close down those state institutions. That was one of their first projects. It has clearly blossomed over the years. Mike Cavone, who I know and respect, runs it, but it's a catch-all. Now they also do have a subsidiary which handles case management, and they. I'm just trying to find it. Where is PHMCC has a budget of, not a budget, but their gross receipts last year was $55 million.
Okay, because Andrea is saying that PMHCC put out the newest RFP for community vaccine program. So we're watching to see who all these people are and how they're going to make this work. Now, I just want to let you know that when the email went out, and this was written by WHYY, it was written on February 4th. He says, given our ongoing partnership with the Philadelphia Department of Public Health and our aggressive employee COVID-19 vaccination rollout plan, we are thrilled to make vaccine appointments available to all PHMC employees. Richard J. Cohen, President and CEO of PHMC, wrote in the email, inviting all staff to get vaccinated regardless of their eligibility in the city's current priority schedule was not the proper way to go about things, according to the health department spokesperson James Garrow. Now, this is what James Garrow said. We reminded them that the vaccine provided to them was for the populations listed on the city's prioritization scheme, which are people that are 65 and older, underlying conditions, frontline workers, right? So they're at 1B, and they agree they should not have sent that email. But what happens after that? This type of prioritization mishap is not uncommon, he added. So then he added the caveat to it, like, well, nothing to see here. And so we have to, when I highlight these kinds of things, is because I want people to realize that we must do better. Right? We can no longer, we're looking at, Dr. Ayla did a whole news conference saying exactly, and she named PHMC in her news conference. She said these kinds of organizations continue to vaccinate white folks and people who are not eligible, right? And the people who are really deserving of it are not getting the vaccines. And so what she has done is shut down her portal. 46,000 people registered, and more than half of them were not people who lived in the community. right? So now she's doing it on a first come first served basis as of March 1st, you know, and once she clears out those 46,000, and she said she's up to January 24th as of yesterday. So if you sent in an email, you will get an email response to go get your vaccine. She said look for it, but understand that she's shutting it down because she's tired of folks coming into North Philadelphia in their Teslas and their Mercedes, never set foot in the community a day in their lives, and were actually indignant about the fact that they should get a vaccine. You hear me, Karen?
And that's
so
where she needs 6'6" brothers standing there checking driver's license.
Yep. Yep.
Okay.
Yep.
But here's the problem. No, the political will is not there in the city to hold PHMCC accountable. PHMC accountable, Philadelphia Public Health Management Corporation accountable. As you said, it is, well, you know, oops, my bad, nothing to see here. And that happens repeatedly. The definition of madness is continuing to do the same thing and expecting a different outcome.
And so that's why you gave us the website to reach out to the federal part.
Correct.
Right. So hrsa.gov if you want to file a formal complaint about these things that are happening, and not just PHMC, but anywhere where these kinds of egregious acts are happening. I can't, you know, you have just been so full of great information. I can't thank you, but I'm going to keep talking to you because you know where all the little bodies are hidden, and you know where all the dots are connected so that people can understand. I'm going to have to get off the line and take a break and get to my next guest, but let me know what else is there that you'd like to let us know in the 2 minutes that we have left, Karen.
Keep making noise. The woman who wrote the article at WHYY, get on a first-name basis with her. Find the outlets that are receptive, because, again, politics is a big thing here, inside baseball, but find the outlets that are responsive to making these egregious decisions and the casualness of these egregious decisions public. There is this blasé approach that's going to kill us. It's the same kind of logic that happened when they gave a 22-year-old pimple-faced kid a contract at the vaccination center. Let me tell you something. I, along with a whole slew of folks who are qualified to do things, who get passed over because of the inside baseball of that kind of placement, I've got nothing to lose in Philly.
Right.
Okay?
Right.
I've had nothing to lose in Philly. I am known as being contrarian because I am intolerant of the BS. And this is BS, and Richard Cohen has seen and heard me call out the BS. No one wants to hold them accountable, so you go to the places that will make noise.
And that's, again, the ARSA.gov, right?
Yes,
HRSA.gov.
Now, I'm hoping, and I will come back to you, but I am hoping that I can get the Congressional Black Caucus to do hearings on this. Because it's not just here.
Okay.
But the protocols, you know, the distribution of vaccine absolutely got screwed up, okay? But the protocol for how it was supposed to be executed, we know that. Our black organizations know that. Our minority-controlled FQHCs know that. Our black political leaders know that. This is something that we know how to do. And that it has been ignored, flouted with impunity is unacceptable.
Agreed. Absolutely.
And folks have to be held accountable for it.
All right. Well, we're going to keep going at it. We're going to keep holding people accountable. We're going to keep giving people avenues on how to hold people accountable, since we seem to have so many folks in leadership that are just, turning a blind eye or telling us to go away, or, I'm tired of having these conversations. We had one in Clubhouse last night about the vacuum in leadership in Philadelphia, and it was very interesting to hear folks from all walks of life talk about the different avenues and the things that have happened in this city where folks have just turned a blind eye and lives were damaged and destroyed as a direct result of it. And we have it in solid data. And so we have to do better. Thank you so much, Karen A. Robinson. It was always a pleasure talking to you. Have a good one. All right.
Take care. Bye-bye.
All right, bye-bye. Yeah, we're going to keep doing this. We're going to keep going at this because I really believe that as a black media, and she's right, the reporter from WHYY did an amazing job bringing this to light. And as folks keep bringing these things to light, we can't keep brushing it away. We now are trying to figure out where the next set of vaccination sites are from. They just put out the brand new RFPs yesterday. I do believe Dr. Ayla and group are going to get some of that. And so let's see where it comes from. As we know where the sites are going to be, we will let you know. But the city has had to revamp its requests for proposals because of the Philly fighting COVID fiasco. And so they're redoing the whole thing. And once we know where all the vaccination sites are, then we will let you know. WURD is committed to keeping Black history alive and ensuring that our voices are heard. Each February, we honor Black History Month, and each day we are committed to making Black history. WURD is the only Black-owned and operated station in Pennsylvania, and we serve our community by providing information to educate, uplift, and inspire our listeners. Make your mark in Black history now. Join or renew your Forward membership today. Go to our website and leave your mark and let us know your favorite show by selecting the name of that show at checkout. Go to www.wurdradio.com/join now for more information. And the code for this show is Andrea, ANDREA. You are listening to The Source, 96.1 FM, 900 AM, streaming live on WURDradio.com. Follow us on all social media platforms at onWURD. 215-634-8065 is the number to call in. We will be right back after these messages.
Toyota proudly presents In Their Own Words. The late Chadwick Boseman, another HBCU-trained graduate of Howard University, spent a much too short amount of time with us. Yet, through his brilliance as an actor, he showed us and told us incredible stories and life lessons.
Everybody is the hero in their own story. Right. like you should be the hero in your own story. You should be, you should see yourself conquering the dramatic action of whatever you're trying to do. So when you get to crisis, you know how to deal with it. You should be able to do that. And there are people that come in and help you with your story, but you have to be the person who deals with the conflicts that are in place. Nobody else can. There's no deus ex machina that's going to come in and save it for you. Even if you pray to God, God expects you to do some things.
Toyota is pleased to feature African-American icons expressing themselves in their own words. Toyota, let's go places.
Ambition. You can't measure it, configure it, or bottle it up. But when you have it, you know it. It's that little voice in your head that says, you're not done. You want more. At WGU, we know all about ambition. We're a university that is rewriting the rules of higher education, making it more accessible, affordable, and student-focused than it's ever been. Because we know you won't rest until you reach your goals. Neither will we. WGU. Ambition never rests. Apply now at wgu.edu.
Hi, this is John.
Hi, this is Juanita, owners of JD's Auto Body and Painting. We're located at 6300 Wayne Avenue, right there at the intersection of Wayne and Washington Lane.
We really like to thank all you WURD listeners for the support that you've given our business, and we really hope to see you in the future.
JD, tell them about our products and services we have.
We have a new state-of-the-art paint shop along with our body shop and detail shop. We can help you with the dents and scratches from the winter season.
Come to JD's Auto Body and Painting. Come on out and check us out. We're still honoring that WURD 10% discount. Give us a call, 215-848-5949. Again, 215-848-5949.
Thanks again for supporting our business. We really appreciate you.
See you at JD's Auto Body and Painting.
Tune in this Saturday at 10 a.m. for the Educational Pulse with the School District of Philadelphia with host Dr. William Height.
You're listening to The Source with Andrea Lawful Sanders on WURD Radio. Streaming live on WURDradio.com and the WURD Radio app.
Welcome back to The Source. If you're just joining us, I had a riveting conversation with Karen A. Robinson, president of Kinnaman Holdings, about PHMC, another vaccine fiasco that's happening here in the city of Philadelphia, and why she believes we're going through this right now, and what can we do about it. So that was a good conversation. In the next few minutes that I have, I want to join my next guest, which is Taria Hudson, who is a first-year student at the Drexel University PhD program on the Education Leadership track and Policy track. In addition to her coursework, she serves as a research assistant in the Justice-Oriented Youth Joy Lab and a graduate assistant for the National Science Foundation Teacher Program. Good afternoon, Ms. Hudson. How are you?
Good afternoon. Thank you so much for having me.
Oh, thank you. Leading up to the livelihood segment where we talk about social justice in teaching, racial bias, academic equity, tell the audience, the listening audience, what you are on here to talk about today and why.
So I'm here to talk really about the way that education dovetails with politics and how important it is for our youth and the people that are voting to get involved in politics, because it really affects how education transpires for our youth. Okay. So can you say more about, is this in relation to the school board part of politics? Oh, absolutely, absolutely. So I actually recently resigned my position on the Norristown Area School District Board of Directors. And one of the reasons that I did that was I felt like people were using the school board as a stepping stone or a way to get political agendas across, when our students really need us to be purely focused on their education and what's going on in this pandemic and how we can equip them to be citizens in the future. Uh-huh. So, you know what's interesting? I was in a meeting all day long today, and we were talking about conflict of interest and the Sunshine Act and what that looks like for those of us who sit on boards. And you're absolutely right. So let me give you an example, and I'll use myself as an example. When I got on the school board that I served on for 2 terms, one of the first things I was asked was, do you need anything? Do you want your children placed in specific classes? Do you need, and I said, nope, no thank you, no thank you. Whatever class they deserve to be in, put them there. I didn't ask for any favors for for any family members. I didn't ask for favors for family members to come work at the district, because I kept a clean slate across the board. And something in my soul told me that was the right thing to do, because not long after that, we were in a board meeting, and the then superintendent said something about one of the board members asking for a favor to get their child into the University of Pennsylvania. And she jokingly said this in an open meeting now, jokingly said, well, you know, I can create miracles, but I couldn't do that. And I remember looking at that board member and just bright red, right? Even as a radio show host on WURD radio, and I'm going to be very clear with all of you, people have offered, they've sent me things, emails, you know, I want to pay for this and we want to pay for that. And even something as simple as lunch, as much as I would like to accept it, I don't accept any of it, right? Because I never, ever want it to be seen as a conflict of interest. I love the WURD listeners. I am grateful that they have a heart and that they want to share these things with me. But you see, I always have to stay in a place where when people come and I talk to them, they can never come back and say, well, you accepted such and such from such and such, and that's why you feel the way that you do, not over here. So explain to people, why is it so important, Taria, that when we get into these positions of authority, when we sit on these boards, paid or unpaid, that we should not find ourselves in places where we're doing these kinds of things? And what does it do to the integrity of the position that we're in? Absolutely. So one of the concerns that I have is, you know, beyond the school board, beyond politics, you know, I plan to have a voice in this field. Education policy is my field. What does it look like for me? What does it do to my credibility as a woman of color who already has it so difficult and having to prove herself? What does it look like if I'm associated with people who are making decisions that can be questioned. I can't afford that, and our students can't afford having somebody as the face of that. So it is so, so important, especially as people of color who are coming up, who sometimes are the first or the only to create a persona, present a character of integrity. And that means exactly like you said. Maybe it means turning down lunch. Maybe it means, turning down a gift from someone. But you know what? Your integrity and your character is so much more important, because at the end of the day, what you don't want is your legacy or your work to be undermined because of a decision that you made, uninformed or informed.
Mm-hmm. What advice do you have for people who are running for these kinds of political offices at this point? Because we do realize, and I tell this to folks all the time, just because they look good on paper, look at their core values. So what are the things that people should, what advice do you have for people, and what are the things we should look out for as a red flag when people are running for political office or for board positions or for seats, that are paid and unpaid?
Absolutely. So one of the things that I would always advocate for, there's a lot of information that is public. So, when you think about who is making donations, that information is public. You can go and request that, usually at a county voter services office. Go and see who is making donations to these campaigns, because then if and when the people that you vote for get elected, you can see how their decision making is or is not impacted by who is donating to their campaigns. Make sure to go to town halls. People are having Zoom meetings now. Ask pertinent questions. Ask questions that are deeper than the surface questions. You want to know where their loyalties lie, what their future aspirations are. I am not against having ambitions, to say the least, but I do have a challenge when those ambitions start to cloud one's judgment and affect the people that they're serving. So just make sure that you are holding folks accountable. Speak up. Make sure you have a voice. As a guest before me said, it's okay to be the contrarian. It is okay to be the person in that school board meeting or in that council meeting or whatever meeting where you're standing up and you're being the one asking the questions. Don't be afraid. Don't shy away from that. Our ancestors did that, and they were able to move the ball forward that way. Let's continue on that legacy.
Yeah, do me a favor. I'm going to ask you to hang up and call back on this number, 215. Write this down for me, 215-634-8065. I want to talk to you with our next guest, Deborah Keys Wright and Dr. Almitra Berry Jones. And we're going to bring up this topic that you and I are talking about. And so I'm going to blend all three of you together. Is that okay?
That sounds lovely. Just
all
the
right.
Number one more time,
215-634-8065. And let me tell you why I'm doing this, Taria. We're looking now in all levels of government where we're seeing this kind of pay for play, this kind of I'll scratch your back, you scratch mine. These kinds of compromises are now coming home to roost, And so it impacts the integrity of what we do, because if somebody has given us favors or or they're giving us large sums of money for our organization or whatever it is, we're less apt to speak up about it. And when we're in certain positions, we cannot afford to find ourselves in places where people say, well, I don't want you to interview so-and-so because I gave you X amount of money. Or don't even have to say it, because don't even have to be said. I gave you X amount of money for your organization, so now you owe me this favor. And that's why, as media people, as political folks, as those of us who are sitting on boards, we cannot afford to find ourselves in that compromised position. Hold on. Call back and to that number, and I'll get you in with the next set of guests, okay?
That sounds great. Thank you so much. I'll talk to you soon.
You're quite welcome. Talk to you soon. You are listening to The Source. 96.1 FM, 900 AM, streaming live on WURDradio.com. Follow us on all social media platforms at onWURD. 215-634-8065 is the number to call in. To my regular WURD call-in listeners, call me around 3 o'clock this afternoon. We'll be able to have a long talk about everything. We will be right back after these messages.
WURD is supported by Temple University, Philadelphia's public university. At Temple, we aim to make college accessible for all. That's why we launched the Cecil B. Moore Scholars Program, a bridge program for high school students in North Philadelphia that offers pre-college support, including tutoring, career exploitation, and the opportunity to take a free course at Temple. It's part of our commitment to cultivate leaders from our city and to support all students in reaching their full potential.
One more step. You got it.
You're doing great. This is the sound of a nationally ranked top rehabilitation hospital, home to the largest collection of robotics in the United States, where we continually exceed patient expectations. Because no injury is too severe or too minor for our care.
There you go.
This is the sound of success. Moss Rehab. Challenge accepted.
Recovery starts with a call. Pennsylvania's Substance Use Disorder Hotline is staffed by real people who are trained to help. They're here 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. They'll get you or your loved one into treatment regardless of your access to insurance. If you or someone you know is suffering from addiction, call 1-800-662-HELP. Recovery starts with a call.
Paid for with Pennsylvania taxpayer dollars.
Listen to Laborers Live. We created the weekend. We created the 40-hour work week. We just want enough to feed our family, be able to send our children to college, and let our next generation do better than we did.
To people that might have forgot how important unionism is in a country like the United States. People now infringing on our 8-hour work day, trying to work people more than 8 hours without overtime, trying to work people without benefits. In the long run, everybody's getting a fat paycheck except the worker. So this is really a wake-up call for America.
The struggle is continuous. Tune in to Laborers Live every Friday from 4 to 5 p.m. Sponsored by LESIT, the Laborers Employers Cooperation Education Trust of the Laborers District Council of Philadelphia and vicinity.
Local 332, Sam Staten Jr. Business Manager. Local 57, Esteban Vera Business Manager. Local 135, Dan Woodall Jr. Business Manager. Local 413, James Harper Jr. Business Manager. The Laborers District Council, Ryan Boyer Business Manager, and Tony Staten, Executive Director of LESIT.
Tune in this Saturday from 5 to 6 p.m. for the Islam Today Show, with a perspective on moral guidance and Islamic principles and values.
This is WURD Radio, 96.1 FM and 900 AM WURD Philadelphia. Independent Black Media.
You're listening to The Source with Andrea Lockville Sanders on WURD Radio. Streaming live on WURDRadio.com and the WURD Radio app.
Welcome back to The Source. Michael, is Deborah Keys Wright and Dr. Almitra Berry Jones on? Let me know, please. Let me just read a little bit about them. Yes. See, I love people. See, they call in on time. I love this. So this is our livelihood segment that we talk about each and every week around race bias leadership in school districts, school boards. And Deborah Keys Wright, who is the founder and National Board Governance and Education Equity Consultant for the Right Keys to Consulting LLC, uses her highly sought-after skills to provide customized, well-developed leadership skills through training for board and superintendent teams. And Almitra L. Berry, EDD, is the CEO, founder, and principal consultant of Al Berry Consulting Incorporated. She's a nationally recognized speaker, author, and consultant on the topic of culturally and linguistically diverse learners in America's K-12 education system. The topic today is, if academic equity was a road trip, what would it be like? Let's take a metaphorical journey on the road to academic equity, a journey where every instructional decision we make, from methods to curriculum to assessment to data-based decision-making, is laser-focused on improving the life outcomes of our learners. It doesn't matter where your learners are academically, what neighborhood they live in, what they know or don't know. What matters is only that they show up and that educators use the CARTI framework. It is a path that begins with cultural awareness and continues through scientifically based protocols that helps educational systems shift to a place of equity where they reach and teach every child. Good afternoon, Deborah Keys Wright. Good afternoon, Dr. Almitra Berry Jones. And welcome back to Rhea Hudson. How are all of you doing?
Wonderful. Well, thank you.
All right, so good afternoon. So, Deborah, I just wanted you to know, before you came on, I had Taria Hudson on, who was a board member, who was a sitting board member on the Norristown Area School District Board.
Oh, I was listening. Yes. I heard it.
And so I said, let me just go ahead and bring Taria back, because you work with school boards and superintendents all the time. She found that there were serious conflicts going on at her board. People were being appointed through a political interest. She called it to the forefront. It became an ugly thing. One of the people who were being interviewed for the board came to the board meeting that night and said the person who got the board position called her and told her. It was so ugly. Someone sent me the link via Twitter, and I watched the entire thing. As someone who works with school boards, and then Dr. Almitra, welcome, I will get right to you, but I just wanted to get us to delve into this conversation because we have a whole hour to talk. When you see this kind of stuff, what advice do you have for first Taria, Deborah, and then for people who are intending to run for boards, 2, and 3, people who are current board members?
Well, Taria, thank you for recognizing that the reason you were on the board was probably different from other people. Integrity, I heard you talk about, which is so important, and I commend you for that. Everyone is not cut out to be a board member, as you know, and so anyone who wants to be a board member, they definitely need to do their homework, because as we know, there is no requirements other than the basics of being 18 years of age and popular enough to be voted in. No education requirement or anything of that nature, and you will usually be the boss of someone with a PhD.
Right.
And so it's so important that board members understand the difference between governance and running the day-to-day. That is not what the board members do, but that seems to be, of course, the most exciting part. But that is why you hire the education expert, and that person will do it. So training is absolutely necessary. It is not required in the majority of the states, but it should be at least the culture of the board that anyone who wants to be on the board to get the basic training at least, of course. But it's continuous training. It's not just a one weekend of a retreat. As you know, you have to have continuous learning because, yes, you will be approached to do sometimes unethical things, violation of open meetings law, all of those things. And
the Sunshine Act. Yes, Deborah.
And Andrea, you were mentioning people even want to offer you things, being the host, the phenomenal host. Even as a board member, you have to be very careful towing that line. And you know that vendors always say wine and dine board members, to try to make sure they can get the contract, only that they vote for it. But as far as curriculum and all of that, that's up to the administrators. But you have to be very careful taking gifts because just like you are a politician, and so you have to remember that. So absolutely, but board members need to definitely stay up on their training and make sure they just reflect on what is their own integrity. You have to reflect upon what you will and will not do, your values and your morals. You don't forget that just because you become a board member.
But then I tell you, I say this all the time, Deborah, people don't change. They just show up in their natural spaces after they put on the airs and pretend like they're doing all the right things. Who they are naturally comes to the forefront. And so we can't hide that, right? And they will show you who they are. Taria, do you have any questions for Deborah while you're on the line?
Yeah, I think that one of the things that you brought up that is so important is that consistent training, that learning piece. And I think that a lot of the mistakes and missteps that are made are really made from ignorance, right? So some people just don't know. There are some people who have good intentions and just make the missteps, and then there are people who may have different ulterior motives. So how do you instruct, especially board members as single board members? You really have no power outside of the board. How do you instruct them to operate within a board that may not agree with them? Or, if they raise questions and they're shut down, how are they supposed to do that? I mean, I took a very extreme approach after a long list of incidents, but that can't always be the answer. So what do you suggest?
Well, you were spot on. You know, as an individual board member, I remind board, you have no power individually because it is the Board of Education. It is the collective body that gives directives to the superintendent. And again, this training will help you understand what you can and cannot do. But here, if it's a board of 7, 9, or 11, you have to learn how to work to build consensus with each other, to collaborate, have collaborative conversations, to really understand what is good for the district, because you're really just ensuring that the district is running properly. But again, there are individuals who have agendas, which I think that's okay as long as it is student-centered, student-focused, and that you make your decisions based upon facts, based upon data, not based upon how you feel about a certain situation. But not everyone is at that level. You know, you can have the most intelligent individuals, and I tell board members, I am in no way saying that you're not intelligent. I'm just saying that you're not the education expert in this position, because you are a policymaker. And so you have to look at it through that lens. But very smart people don't understand the basics of board governance. And that's why, again, I will always go back to the training of understanding the role, what you can and cannot do as a governing body. And when you don't have that, then you see all of these missteps, because they're doing things based upon their own knowledge base, but nothing to do with governance. Yeah,
absolutely. And here's the other thing that I would say as someone who has sat in that seat. Whenever you need to have a conversation with a board member, make sure there's another board member there. Don't violate the Sunshine Act, but always make sure that there's someone else there so that they can never say, you said, I didn't say, we did say, you know. I had to have a hard conversation with my board president, and I reached out to another board member and I said, can you meet me at this Starbucks with the board president so we can have this conversation? And as a direct result of that, they could never say that I did not have the conversation with them at the time that I had it, should anything come up. You understand what I'm saying?
Absolutely.
So you always want to cover yourself and make sure that you ask for someone else to be in the room with you, and do not put anything on email. Please, y'all, I keep saying this to folks all the time. I've never seen folks do this as much as they have. They put all these crazy things on email, and then folks have asked for a right-to-know request, and all your stuff is out on front and main. Be very careful when you're handling your board business that those things don't happen, or even your text messages. People can request your text messages.
Because then they will get all of your text messages.
Exactly.
And so you have to be careful not to violate the Open Meetings Act if you start having deliberation through text messaging or emailing. So all of that has to take place in the public. Your meeting is in the public by law, but it is your meeting. It's not a public meeting, but it is a meeting that must take place in the public. So you cannot have these conversations as far as making decisions or deliberating with more than, you know, when you have a quorum. You know, so you can't, if it's a board of 7, you cannot have more than 3 people have it, and you should not have discussions going along. Absolutely. So you have to be very careful.
Yep,
you're a public servant.
Did that answer your question, Taria?
It did, and it really, I really appreciate it, because it validated a lot of the concerns that I've had over the months where I've raised these issues, I've raised these concerns, and people were saying, no, it's not a big deal, or we're not going to do it that way. And all along, you know, I've been concerned because, again, I don't want my name attached to something like that, even if it's by accident. And, you know, and here we are, and hearing you say that validates a lot of the concerns that I had over the past several months.
And I would love to stay in touch with you as well. So
I have her contact information through the show. I am going to bid you goodbye for now, Taria, and I will connect you with Deborah Keys-Wright. Okay?
Okay. Thank you so much again for having me.
Oh, you are so welcome, and thank you for allowing us to have this discourse with you in such an open and transparent way. We appreciate you. Okay?
No problem. Take care. Have a great afternoon.
All right. Bye-bye. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
Ooh, Dr. Almitra Berry Jones, I bet you're wondering what is going on in these streets, huh? How are you?
No, ma'am. I am excellent, and I will say no, I'm not wondering because I have spent 20 years out in these streets. I get it.
I'm telling you, it's a consistent conversation, and we are here located in Philadelphia, Pennsylvania, and we're having these conversations consistently because we're seeing it across the board, and people are running for offices and, you know, sitting in these political spaces and accepting favors like it is the most natural thing in the world. I tell folks all the time, I appreciate you, I love you for thinking of me, but if I even have an inkling of a doubt that this may be considered or construed as something else, I'm not accepting it. I can't. I can't, because then I would lose integrity for the people that I'm supposed to be working with. So, all right, let's go. Academic road to equity. Can you talk to us about what that would look like on this metaphorical journey, and what is the CARDI framework?
So CARDI is a framework I developed literally over time. So in the second edition of my book, which will be out in July, lays it out step by step. But sort of big picture, CARDI stands for Culturally Appropriate Response to Instruction. The big idea there is that everything we do should respond to the children that are in front of us. It should be culturally appropriate for the children that are in front of us. And the children, their lives, where they can go and what they can become, should be everything that we focus on every day in the classroom, as school leaders, as district leaders, and even as board members.
You know, I thought your name looked familiar. I have your book.
Oh. You'll have to get the new one in July. We'll have to make sure.
I have your book, and I use it in my training, actually. Isn't that amazing? And I'm telling you, I did not know who you were until I just read your thing today, because Deborah chooses who her guests are going to be on Thursdays. But I actually use your framework when I'm working with educators in schools. So thank you.
Well, I'm glad, and I'm glad that you've gotten some usage out of it. That is excellent. Yep. So in the new copyright, what you'll find is a much more refined version of that in the 10, 11 years in between, some reframing and refining based on what I was seeing in schools. So if you think about, and I'm a very visual person, and I know this is radio, so this is a little challenging for me, that when we look at what we do in schools, there are two lanes, and I refer to them as the two lanes of professional learning in the CARDI framework. One lane is structure, and that is how our systems are built and set up. The other lane is culture, and that culture lane is about our mindset, what we think, what we believe, how we do things in the interest of teaching and learning. And so we come into systems, or systems currently exist with this lane of structure and this lane of culture. Equity is a destination that's down at the end of that road. And so there are things that have to happen as we take that journey, but we have to travel in two lanes at the same time. Very often what you'll see happen is that schools and districts will restructure. I have worked with the school district of Philadelphia. I feel like I lived at the courtyard downtown for about a year and a half. And so we'll change the way things are done. We get new materials. We train teachers. We do all these things. We change timelines. We change how schools are set up. But we never change the culture of the district. We don't change what we think and believe about the children in front of us. Wait
a minute. You're about to make me... So I'm not sure if you're aware, Dr. Berry Jones, but the school district of Philadelphia is right now in a firestorm in terms of what's happening with the children for online learning, in terms of, and it comes right back down to culture. You know, what are we going to do with getting them back to school? And the conversation that has been flying back and forth has been around blaming the parents, blaming this one, blaming that one. And I noticed no one ever said, let me look at myself and how I am responding to these young people that I'm teaching. There's a recent published article that says only 33% of third graders in the school district of Philadelphia are fluent, are able to read. 30.
I think that number is probably high.
You're not the only one that has said that.
I state that I have been there. What I say, and I hear that all the time, and what I say to educators is this: the parents in our communities are sending us the absolute best children that they have, and they are doing the best they can with them. To blame the parents is simply to blame the system of the school district itself, because you already educated, in air quotes, that parent
their parents.
A generation ago.
Absolutely.
So if the parents can't teach their children, it's because the school system didn't teach those parents. That's why when we talk about these problems, they are systemic. They are built into the system that is the school district. And until we change the culture of the system, nothing else is going to change. And let me say one other thing, and then you'll probably have 10 questions for me. 2000, probably 2009-ish, around there, we looked at test scores for mathematics to provide intervention at one of the high schools. This was just one that I remember the scores from. And we found that of the incoming freshman class, less than 20% of the children could subtract accurately.
Stop it.
And you wonder why they can't pass Algebra 1. It's because we failed to teach them how to add, subtract, multiply, and divide when they were in second grade and third grade.
Wow. That is, it leaves me with a strange feeling in the pit of my stomach, because it all ties in. Philadelphia has now had its 62nd murder and we're only at February 11th. There people are pointing fingers left and right. You know, they keep pointing at the superintendent, and I keep saying it. Everybody is a part of this. Yes, the superintendent has a piece, but his cabinet has a piece of it too. The educators that are in the schools. I said a couple of days ago, my husband, who was an educator, says, if I have a class of 40 children and 39 of them fail, it's not the children, it's me, the teacher. And so I have to figure out what I can do to change how I'm teaching those children. But that's where culturally responsive, right, behaviors start to happen.
Yes.
Unbelievable. Hold on one second. Let me take a quick break, and then we're going to come back, because I want you to give us an idea of how we meld structure with culture and holding ourselves responsible versus pointing fingers. Can you hold on one second for me, please?
I can.
All right. You, woohoo, you are listening to The Source, 96.1 FM, 900 AM, streaming live on WURDradio.com. Follow us on all social media platforms at onWURD. 215-634-8065 is the number to call in. We will be right back after these messages.
Happy New Year, Philly. It's sincerely Sarita. The 2020 pandemic blew the roof off of life as we know it and forced us to make radical decisions once thought impossible. Many parents and grandparents turned to the option of a public cyber education. In thousands of instances, they sought assistance from the one true pioneer and industry leader in public cyber education, Commonwealth Charter Academy. Visit ccaeducate.me and exercise your right to choose a safe, hassle-free, student-focused learning environment your kids deserve. CCA delivers elite online instruction streamed directly to the safety and comfort of your living room. They provide a laptop and headset along with internet connectivity that includes financial assistance, all at no cost to families. CCA has been the gold standard in school choice for nearly 20 years. Visit ccaeducate.me and ring in 2021 with a 5-star learning experience. Again, that's ccaeducate.me.
Hey, WURD family. Our friends at Amoroso's Baking Company are hiring right now. Amoroso's has been baking the delicious bread in our community for over 100 years, and they want you to join their team today. The old and the young love Amoroso's, and they are hiring right now. Check it out. They offer fair pay and provide health, dental, and prescription plans after 90 days employment. Call 856-754-0355 or visit amorososbaking.com for details.
Tune in to More Than That with Gia Peppers live this Saturday, February 13th at 3 p.m. on WURD Radio, 96.1 FM and 900 AM, or wherever you listen to podcasts. This episode of More Than That is sponsored by General Motors, who is committed to becoming the most inclusive company in the world. Everybody in.
Looking for an exciting and well-paying new career opportunity? MCAP is a free manufacturing career accelerator program. In just 7 weeks, learn new career skills, earn industry certifications, and connect to manufacturing companies who are hiring. To see if MCAP is right for you, call 215-770-7101. That's 215-770-7101. MCAP is brought to you by Drexel University's Goodwin College of Professional Studies in partnership with EDSI Incorporated. MCAP is an equal opportunity program. Diverse candidates, including women and people of color, are strongly encouraged to apply.
Okay, Her's new fire potato chips and cheese curls, they are spicy. Whew, they're hottest snacks yet. Hold on. Whew. But you know, it's not just heat. There's some nice sweet and savory stuff going on too. Ooh, there's that heat again. It burns, but it burns so tasty. Ooh, that's hot. Find Her's Fire Snacks at your store today. Whew. Taste the flavor, feel the heat, break out the Her's.
You're listening to The Source with Andrea Lawful Sanders on WURD Radio. Streaming live on WURDradio.com and the WURD Radio app.
Welcome back to The Source. This is our livelihood segment. So if you're just joining us, I have on the line with me Deborah Keys Wright and Dr. Almitra Berry-Jones. And our topic is if academic equity was a road trip, what would it be like? Dr. Almitra Berry-Jones, thank you. I'm finding this conversation to be enlightening in ways. My technical producer, Michael, and I are talking, and I said to him, this is horrible. I said, this feels overwhelming some days, these poor students. He said, this is part of the reason why I left the education field. The incompetence is sickening, right? But we're all feeling it at this point. So what does it, structure versus culture, or building them together, looks like versus one or the other?
Okay, so keep in mind, structure is how we set things up, right? Mm-hmm. So the bell schedule, classroom configuration, the maps for which kids go to what schools. Mm-hmm. And we can change all of that. And we can mix black kids with white kids and kids of low wealth with kids of high wealth. And none of that will make a difference if the way that a teacher thinks and what that teacher believes when those children are standing or sitting in front of him or her during classroom time, if what they believe is not that every single child in front of them is worthy of a high-quality instruction, the ability to choose to go to college and be successful in college, or choose to go into the military, or choose to go into the trades at the end of their 12 years of school, if they don't believe that every child is worthy of those choices, you will continue to have the system that you have. So you cannot restructure unless you also reculture. And the reculturing is much more important than changing the structure of a school district. Reculturing means that we look at ourselves, and the first thing we have to do is to surface up those implicit biases that we all have, those things deep down inside of us that we may not think about. We have to look at the way that we talk to one another, the way that we talk to our children, and being open to not only understanding the culture of the children that are in front of us, but feeling that it is our responsibility to become aware of those cultures in a way that we can navigate and be comfortable in each of those cultures. So I use the example, I grew up in California, and in my block, when I think about that block on Sutter Street when I was a little kid, we had black families, white families, Latino families, Asian families, Chinese, Japanese, and Filipino at the time. This was in the early 1960s or mid-1960s. So my ability to navigate cultures came very easy because all my friends had various cultures. But so often, and for many of our children, they grow up in a monocultural society that is their block or their neighborhood. And teachers, and I don't care, we say not all skin folk or kin folk. Mm-hmm. Sometimes black teachers will look at black children and think less of them.
Oh, come on now.
And, yeah, I it's hard to say. Sometimes it happens to brown teachers and brown children, white teachers and white children. But we have to get rid of this idea that the shell of a child defines that child's ability or worthiness. So we can't do that unless we look at ourselves first. We have to go through that cultural awareness. And I say we, it's the sort of global educational community. From board members down to beginning teachers to the clerks in the central office, everyone, and understand the value of every culture that children bring to school. That's the culture side. Once you get that taken care of and you stop seeing children as these colors of things or defining them by the neighborhood that they come from, and instead just thinking of them as these are children, these are human beings that are worthy of an education, and I'm going to do everything I can to make sure that they get it, then we can move on to things like discussing the appropriate instructional methodology that's going to appeal to that child, turn that child on to learning, and that we deliver with some fidelity to that methodology, things that will work for those children, that we identify based on the child's needs, and then we can move on to other things that are affected in the school as a whole.
So then here is my follow-up question. Based on what you just said, we seem to have a school system filled with people who are not culturally competent, not culturally aware. They're culturally unaware, culturally destructive, intentionally and unintentionally, no matter what part of the cultural spectrum they come from. So how do we hit the reset button to help all these children? Because I have seen the teachers who are the educators and the aides and the folks, the secretaries who are doing their very best, and oftentimes they're frowned upon. Why are you doing that with that child? Don't you know where they come from? Do you know where their family are from? And so people who want to do well, how do we reset the culture and reset what's going on in schools to get us to a place where more children will learn, and so that not 20% of high schoolers, less than 20% of high schoolers can subtract? It's criminal what we're doing to these children.
It is. I often say that there should be actually, and you have the book, so you know it's in there. I wrote this, the equivalent of a Hippocratic oath for teachers, and that as educators, we too should first do no harm. That means every microaggression, the things that we say, or the way that we look at our children. To hit the reset button, my husband has his fondest saying is that every problem is a leadership problem. It has to start at the top. It has to start with the board, the superintendent, the cabinet. Because if you don't have that commitment at the top, and you've got, there are some amazing principals that do great things, but you cannot change the entire system if you are a principal at a school. You just can't do it by yourself. It has to be top down and bottom up, which means that policies, the mission and the vision statement of a district has to also be culturally aware and culturally appropriate. So it's a lot of professional development. It's a lot of personal reflection, a commitment to doing what's right, and the political will at the top to say that we will not tolerate anything less.
Yeah. As I am having this conversation with the both of you, Michael says, in my opinion, you have to personally want to be culturally aware. It can't be taught. And so then here comes my next question. At what point do we start to say to the people that are culturally destroying our children in the name of, I can't do it? At what point do we start to say goodbye to those people? What processes and policies are put in place? Because so many school districts say, we don't have a way to handle this. We don't know what to do with these teachers. We just keep putting them through and through, and we move them from building to building to building. And you know what has always gotten rid of the most horrific educators and systems? Parents. And that's why so many districts work so hard. And educators in buildings say, we don't want parents in here, or the parents don't care, and they throw the parents, even in suburban school districts where we wanted to be involved. Some parents were not invited to be at the table. We had to fight our way into making folks realize that we cared about our children, right? And so there's all these things in place. What do we do to now start to remove and shift the dead weight out of the system so that we can get to a place of enlightenment for our children?
You know, if I had the magic answer to that, I could probably retire a wealthy woman. I think some of it goes to the expectations that we have as a society, or maybe I should say the lack of expectations that we have as a society, that our public school systems in many places are for children whose parents can't afford to send them anyplace else. We have a system of universities, colleges of education that inadequately prepare 21 and 22-year-old very young adults to go into school systems as teachers and to go into particularly urban systems and very low-wealth rural systems, ill-prepared to provide instruction to the children in front of them. They come in with absolutely no training on cultural awareness and cultural sensitivity. Very few schools of education. I shouldn't say all of them. It's not a blanket statement. But I think part of it, or the biggest part of it, is it is a societal problem, and we accept it. The fact that right now we're in this pandemic where teachers are told they're frontline workers and yet they can't get vaccinated. But we expect them to go into schools, and the whole idea that, well, we're not getting that type of infection rate from school systems. Why still would you put them at risk? Yeah. So we don't respect it.
So let me ask you this: do you believe that that educators not feeling welcomed or treated well in systems trickle down to the children that they're serving to some extent?
Absolutely. Now, it's not, it's certainly not every educator. I'm the daughter of an educator. My mother was a classroom teacher and then an assistant principal, central administration, ultimately School of Education. And so that's why I say not all schools do, but I understand from a unique perspective some of the things that happen in schools of education that end up as damaging to our children, and particularly our black and brown children in public schools, from very well-meaning white people. And that's not to say that there are not phenomenal white teachers that teach black and brown children. I certainly had my fair share of them growing up as a child. But you do have a lot of people who want to do good things, but they don't really realize the damage that they can do to children by not being truly culturally aware.
Deborah, what do you have to add to this?
Oh gosh, so much was said. But even, there are 4 indicators of success when you're talking about this equity thing. This is what I share with boards. It's like peeling away an onion. You have to take layers and layers. And make sure, like you said, starting at the top, setting the policies, but also from the board, even understanding what does it look like governing through the lens of equity. So just the 4 indicators, and we've talked a lot about culture identity, but just is the learning environment inclusive and reflective of all the individuals, all the children? Are their cultures celebrated? Is the learning environment helps the students develop awareness and understanding acceptance of one another? Okay, so cultural identity. The second one is relevance. And I think now more than ever, students are going to challenge educators on this. What MIT is it relevant? Their students' diverse backgrounds are integrated into all of their lessons. The assigned readings expose students to the various life experiences of different cultures. Instructional readings and assignments are reflective of different cultures. All of this in the ethnic groups of students, is it relevant to what they need to know? And then a key one is relationships. The positive student-teacher relationship are established. Because if students and teachers have good relationships, you can tell right there that they will believe that they can succeed. They will assist them in all the ways that they can. You know, you have to really think about the students' stories are learned and it's celebrated. Let the students tell their own story, who they are coming, you know. Do the teachers use culturally responsive body language? How about that? And positive tones and demonstrate respect of these children. You know, this is where we have some issues here. And then the rigor is the last one. So it's the culture, identity, relevance, relationship, and the rigor. Does the teacher have high expectations for all students? And I know, Dr. Barry, you mentioned that as well. Does the learning environment, is it intellectually engaging and challenging for the learners? And are the teachers allowing the students to struggle a little bit and provide?
Oh, my gosh. That's what Michael just said. He said too many educators outside our culture feel sorry for the students instead of holding them to a standard that will make them successful.
Yeah.
Now, I'm going to interject here. Here's the challenge with that.
Just give them some guidance. Absolutely.
Yeah. But what happens too often is, you know, they talk about it being productive struggle. And yes, or no, you shouldn't just automatically give them the answer, and there should be some guidance. But what too often happens is that guidance turns into ultimately really leading them to an answer instead of saying, again, go back to, you know, 20% of kids in the high school who can't subtract, not going back and teaching them the root foundational skill that was not taught so that they can do what you're asking them to do. Because we can give them phenomenal literature, and yes, they should have rich cultural literature from across cultures. And if they don't understand what's going on in that story, we can give them some guidance. But if they don't understand because they cannot read the print, we are not doing anything well for the child unless we go back and teach them how to read.
Yeah.
And we look at just the level of literacy or the levels of illiteracy and innumeracy, particularly among adults in large cities like Philadelphia, like Detroit, like Dallas, like Houston, like pretty much any large city, and it doesn't matter what the demographic makeup is of that large city. Those levels are so low that we keep dumbing down everything else we do for adults, and that allows children to escape and teachers to escape teaching.
Oh, Lord. Oh, somebody needs to wave the church fan. So someone wants to know about your book, your author of your book series. What should I tell them and where should I tell them to go? Ken Jewell wants to know. I believe her first, it's not Deborah, it's Dr. Almitra Berry Jones. She's the one who wrote the book, Kent. So where should they go find the book and the name of the book for them?
So the easiest way to find that, what you'll get is the first edition. The second edition, the new book, will not be released until July.
Okay, well, let's give them the first edition because the first edition is good.
No, the first edition is 10 years old. That's not bad, but I want you to buy the new one because there's so much more in the new book. I know that sounds terrible. No, don't buy the book that you can get on the shelf. Buy the one you can't get yet, unless you want to buy two. Either way, I say the blessing of having a unique first name is that you can go on the Amazon and type in Almitra under author, and there's only going to be one Almitra Berry that pops up, and that's me. And the book title is Affecting Change.
Yep. All right, I'm writing it in for them because I just want to make sure.
Yeah.
All right, and the name of the second book is going to be Affecting Change Part 2.
Yes. It doesn't say Part 2. It's Affecting Change for Culturally and Linguistically Diverse Learners.
Yes.
And if they can't find out, you can find me on social media, Almitra Berry. I'm at Almitra Berry on every network platform, and I can just send you a link.
I'm going to take one more quick break, and then when we come back, let's talk about some strategies that would lead to long-term and short-term solutions for the students that we are talking about here. Can you hold on one second for me, please?
Yes, ma'am.
All right. WURD is committed to keeping Black history alive and ensuring that our voices are heard. Each February, we honor Black history, and each day we are committed to making Black history. WURD is the only Black-owned and operated station in Pennsylvania, and we serve our community by providing information to educate, uplift, and inspire our listeners. Make your mark in Black history now. Join or renew your Forward membership today. Go to our website and leave your mark and let us know your favorite show by selecting the name of the show at checkout. Visit wordradio.com/join now for more information. And the code for this show is Andrea. You are listening to The Source, 96.1 FM, 900 AM, streaming live on wordradio.com. Follow us on all social media platforms at onWURD. 215-634-8065 is the number to call in. We will be right back after these messages.
What would you call a joy that is as solemn as it is sweet and knows no bounds? A joy that's beautifully rooted in soul and resilience. This is Black joy, a joy that reflects pride and honor despite every challenge. AARP believes the power of Black joy is limitless, and through Black History Month and beyond, we celebrate this joy supreme. Join us in celebrating Black History Month at aarp.org/blackcommunity.
Clark Roofing salutes Black History Month with over 30 years of quality roofing experience, providing exceptional customer service, honesty, and professionalism. For service, call 215-365-ROOF. That's 215-365-7663.
Jobs, entrepreneurship opportunities, small business resources, and financial literacy. Livelihood. The new initiative from WURD Radio to connect Philadelphians to resources to help take the next steps in their professional lives. WordWorks.com features career readiness tools, entrepreneurship resources, funding opportunities, and events to expand your livelihood. Visit WURDworks.com right now and take the next step in your professional journey. Livelihood is supported by the Nightland Fest's Local News Transformation Fund, Borealis Philanthropies Racial Equity and Journalism Fund, and the Solutions Journalism Network.
Hello, entrepreneurs, especially if you're in the food delivery space. CBD is one of the fastest growing health and wellness categories out today. And as it is now legal, you can expand your customer base and increase revenues per ticket by using this as a specialty food offering. CBDmealsdelivered.com is now for sale, and it would be a perfect website to integrate with your existing food delivery website. Thank you.
You're listening to The Source with Andrea Lawful Sanders on WURD Radio. Streaming live on wordradio.com and the WURD Radio app.
Welcome back to The Source. If you're just joining us, we're in the last part of our livelihood segment where the topic is, if academic equity was a road trip, what would it be like? Our guests today are Deborah Keys Wright and Dr. Almitra Berry Jones. Welcome back to the both of you. Before we go any further, Dr. Almitra, Kent Jewell wants to know what's the title of the second book that's coming out in July.
Affecting Change.
Affecting Change, Part 2. Kent, told you. Just look up Almitra on Almitra. I put it on the social media page. Look it up. Oh, there, Deborah threw it up. Okay, all right. So here's what I want the both of you to do for me for the last few minutes that we have in this segment. Thank you, Deborah, so much. You've made these livelihood segments so good, and because of so much that's happening in the country, and especially right here in the city of Philadelphia, talking about these educational tips are useful about who should be running for school boards, what a good superintendent, you know, a board and superintendent and cabinet should look like, what teachers should be doing, and what families can be doing, right? So here's what I have for both of you. Simple tips for educators. Simple. Something as simple as smiling and, you know, when you show up for your wearing bright colors. I don't know. Give me some simple tips for educators to working with children in a culturally responsive way. And then give me some simple tips for family members in how to navigate school systems with their educators and their children.
So, okay. As you say, for teachers, one of the first things that teachers need to do is assess themselves for their own implicit biases. The easiest way to do that, because no one wants to think that they have them, the Harvard Implicit Association test for race, black, white. Easy thing to do, and it sort of opens your eyes, but it's certainly not enough. When it comes to the children that are in your classroom, you need to create a culturally inclusive environment in your classroom. You need a classroom culture that is inclusive of all of the cultures of your children, one that is built collaboratively with your children and bringing their families into that mix as well, because you cannot understand the culture of your children unless you also understand the culture of their families. Now, not every parent is going to come in, but you need to be open to having parents in the classroom. I'll say one of the things that I did as a classroom teacher was I always had a parent desk in my room. Very few parents ever came in and stayed, and a lot of teachers would feel threatened by that. But I told my parents if they wanted to see what was going on in the classroom, they were welcome to come in and observe instruction at any time at all. And there was a desk set up for them. Most parents were never in there for more than 2 or 3 minutes because usually the parent is concerned because their child is saying something when they go home. Now, this was for me. I was a tough teacher. And my parents would come in, and after about 2 minutes, they just said, "Oh, no, you got this." And they tell their child, "I don't ever want to have to come back up here again." Right? A little bit of a miscommunication about what was going on. But we need to be open and welcoming to our parents. That's just, it's a huge piece of what allows us to engage our learners and get the respect and support from home.
Yes.
I was a PTA mom. Secretary, president, worked with the state PTA as my children were growing up, yes, while teaching full-time. So we can do two things at once. And there are organizations that do support and educate parents. And so I would say if you don't have a PTA, which is an organization, a 501c3 organization that provides training for parents, all you have to do is form a PTA at your school. Form one. Doesn't take much. 5 people.
Oh, good. Oh, good. All right, Deborah, what you've got?
Yeah, absolutely. I totally agree. I would say, too, to make sure, again, reflect and name your own bias, you know, and have that dialogue, be willing, especially at the board table. I have this conversation. Be open to, you know, to have a dialogue about how your biases will impact your decision-making for a student and how it will impact their educational journey. The key thing is a lot of people are just not talking about it. Of course, when you're talking about equity, yes, you must talk about race. That's not the only thing, but you do have to address race. And not everyone is comfortable, but what you have to do is just meet people wherever they are and have the conversation, because it is no longer an option. You know you do not get to opt out. You have to create this culture of making sure every child feels included in this on their education journey in your district. That is the responsibility of the adults. And remember, adults are in the position where they are entitled, they have power, and they can oppress. And so we have to reflect upon what are we doing to contribute to anything that is happening negatively. What are we doing to contribute to that? Because everyone plays a role.
All right. And for the families, do you have any tips for them?
The families, you know, not more than what Andrea said. What Amitra said. My thing is to, you know, let's stop blaming the parents. You know, I hear so many conversations, and I so agree with you, Amitra. I always say parents are sending their precious commodities to you every day. And this is who they are. They are trusting that you are going to treat their child right and educate them. And so just do that. But if you feel you cannot, then maybe this is not the field that you should be in, because you should have a passion for teaching children, not just doing it for a job. This isn't the field to be in if you just want a paycheck.
Well, okay, so go ahead.
Oh, I was going to say, one of the things for us, one way to think about it is we all, those who have children, well, even if you don't have children, we go to the doctor when we're sick. We take our children to the doctor, and we trust that that physician is going to do what's best for the child because they're a professional. I'll say this as a former teacher, because I still feel like I'm an educator. We're supposed to be, as teachers, the professionals, the trusted source for teaching children how to read, write, think, and calculate.
Yep.
The parents are sending their children to professionals to learn those skills. So we shouldn't be doing what we like to do on a whim, or teaching this way because we think it's fun. It wouldn't be acceptable if we took our child to the doctor and they said, "I think I'm going to try leeches today."
Right.
Right. And you know what? It should also be, if we're not doing what we're supposed to do, it should be educational malpractice.
Yeah.
You know,
yeah.
That's what we should focus on. If you're not doing, just like you would focus on, medical malpractice, this is educational malpractice. And what role are you playing in this?
Right. And you can always tell when educational malpractice is going on when you hear, well, we need more funding. Well, nothing about what are you doing about the pedagogy of who you're teaching in your classroom.
Yeah.
So here are some brief tips that I have for parents. It is not easy. I've met parents who were working 2 and 3 jobs who were not able to go into schools. But here's what I'm going to tell you. Look at the friends that your children have. Every one of you have children who is friends with someone who has a parent that is able to walk into the schools or at some level be able to access and acknowledge the schools. Become friends with those parents, right? And ask them the questions. Don't be afraid. Don't be ashamed. Also, look for advocates. There are plenty of advocates out here. Some of them are for paying, and many of them will not charge you a dime, right? Look up advocacy organizations that, if you can't afford it, will, walk you through the process, so that instead of ignoring what's happening in school, ask someone to give you an idea of what to do. There are advocacy organizations that are nonprofits that are absolutely free for you. Look that up. If you have a question and you reach out to the teacher and nobody's responding to you, take another family member or parent with you and ask, what can I get to have done? Parenting is not an easy thing, and oftentimes we have to subject ourselves to people who consider themselves the experts over our children, at the same time straddling the fine line of knowing our children better than anybody else, right? And so you want to hold everybody accountable, including your children, but you also want to make sure that your children get the best education that they possibly can. If you can't join the PTA, if you can't go to the bake sales, that is fine. At the very least, I'm going to ask you to do this. Every night before you go to bed, kiss your child on the forehead and tell them you love them. When they get up in the morning, kiss them and tell them that you love them. Tell them that you don't know, whatever their best is, you expect that out of them. Tell them that you will be their champion. Tell them that you're going to hold them accountable as parents, and stick to that. When your child is on punishment, you are on punishment too. Okay? Don't punish your child and then tell them they can't watch television and you go do what you want to do and the child is watching the television. Unplug the television, take it out your room. Cut the cord if you have to. Ask my children. They'll tell you a thing or two, right? So, if we all work together and pull together, when educators see that and oftentimes when parents don't show up, it's not because they don't care, it's because they don't know how to access, how to get to you, to tell you in their words that they care. So we have to be mindful as educators not to look down on parents just because their consonants and their vowels don't match when they come to talk to you. Be careful about that, or their hair might not be coiffed in the way that you expect them, or they may not be dressed in the way you expect them to. Those are the things we're talking about, our biases, those latent biases that we don't pay attention to, and we think we're doing the right thing. Also, I'm going to say this again and again, educators, do not discuss family members or children while you're walking in the hallway and in front of other children. I can't believe I had to say this, but here we are, right? So, all those things build up a part of culture. It's nice to put structure in place, but culture is really important as we're dealing with children, because children, when they believe you care, and they'll tell me all the time, Miss Sanders, we don't care what color our teachers are. We love Miss So-and-so, we like Mr. So-and-so because they treat us right. They know. They might not be able to add and subtract, but they know whether you give a hill of beans about them or not. All right.
Absolutely.
Yep. So I want to thank you, Deborah Keys Wright and Dr. Almitra Berry Jones. Thank you so much, the both of you. Another good livelihood segment. And this one was, if academic equity was a road trip, what would it look like? Thank you both so much. We'll talk to you next week, okay? All right.
Thank you.
All right, bye-bye. Bye-bye. You are listening to The Source, 96.1 FM, 900 AM, streaming live on WURDradio.com. Follow us on all social media platforms at onWURD. 215-634-8065 is the number to call in. This next hour belongs to the WURD listeners. You can call ad hoc. I'm going to read all the articles, especially the one about the Link Financial Field with Cindy Bass and our ex-mayor and a few council people. We've just got a lot to talk about. We will be right back after these messages.
Hi, this is John.
Hi, this is Juanita, owners of JD's Auto Body and Painting. We're located at 6300 Wayne Avenue, right there at the intersection of Wayne and Washington Lane.
We really like to thank all you WURD listeners for the support that you've given our business, and we really hope to see you in the future.
JD, tell them about our products and services we have.
We have a new state-of-the-art paint shop along with our body shop and detail shop. We can help you with the dents and scratches from the winter season.
Come to JD's Auto Body and Painting. Come on out and check us out. We're still honoring that WURD 10% discount. Give us a call, 215-848-5949. Again, 215-848-5949.
Thanks again for supporting our business. We really appreciate you.
See you at JD's Auto Body and Painting.
Your child deserves to be educated in a safe and supportive learning environment. Southwest Leadership Academy Charter School, a tuition-free public school, is accepting applications for the 2021-2022 school year. SLAC's 2 locations offer single-gender classrooms in a dual-gender environment. Kindergarten and first-grade classrooms have a 15-to-1 student-teacher ratio. Students learn music, art, and fitness. Southwest Leadership educates the whole child, preparing students to become leaders. slacks-phila.org, Instagram at Southwest Leadership Academy, or email info@slacks-phila.org.
WURD Radio celebrates Black History Month with Black Artist Story 365. Brought to you by Pico and JD's Auto Body.
Welcome to Black Artist Story 365. My name is Envy McKee. Get into this episode where we explore the art and artistry of Academy Award-winning production designer Hannah Beachler. Hannah Beachler is an American production designer. Madam Beachler grew up in Centerville, Ohio, and graduated from the University of Cincinnati, where she studied fashion design. Then she attended Wright State University in Dayton, Ohio, where she studied film. Her first major collab was with the celebrated director Ryan Coogler on 2013's Fruitvale Station. Coogler later hired her to work as his production designer on Creed, and then later on, Black Panther. Hannah's set design work can also be seen in the Miles Davis biopic Miles Ahead and for the film Moonlight. While we could say her coup de production gras was her Afrofuturist design direction swag in Black Panther, let us all bow down and agree that her design work for Beyoncé's 2016 TV special and visual album Lemonade is the visual holy grail. Of course, now she's an Academy Award winner and the first African-American woman to be nominated or to win an Oscar for Best Production Design. Okay? We honor the art and artistry of star cousin Hannah Beachler. So that's it for this episode of Black Artist Story 365. My name is Envy McKee. To hear more, tune into The Envy McKee Show, Friday nights, 7 to 10 p.m., right here on WURD.
Black Artist Story 365 is brought to you by Pico, powering communities, and JD's Auto Body and Painting for all your auto body and detailing needs. Tune in every Saturday at 6 p.m. to Recovery Talk 101 with your host, Rick Ford, talking about addiction, treatment, and recovery, right here on WURD Radio. This is WURD Radio, 96.1 FM and 900 AM WURD Philadelphia. Black Talk Media.
You're listening to The Source with Andrea Lawful Sanders on WURD Radio. Streaming live on WURDradio.com and the WURD Radio app.
Welcome back to The Source. This next hour belongs to my people, the WURD listeners. You can call in at 215-634-8065. I've got each and every one of you. Call in, though, so I can talk to you so I don't have to worry about it. While I'm at it, I have not heard from Tyrone or Woody for 2 weeks, 2 solid weeks now. Somebody call and let me know that Tyrone and Woody are doing fine, please. They're like the regular staples. They're like oatmeal. You know, they show up every time we have a radio show, no matter what happens across the spectrum. So if anybody knows where they are and that they're okay, let me know. All right, so I'm going to start reading some articles. I didn't hear about this until late last night because I was on a clubhouse, moderating a clubhouse conversation with Chris Norris and Jawan Williams, and talking about leadership, the leadership vacuum in Philadelphia. And I'm going to tackle some of the local stuff that's going on here. And so this was written by the Philadelphia Inquirer, that should Philly use the link as mass vaccine site, it is now a political fight. Now, this was written by Laura McChrystal and Ellie Silverman, updated yesterday at 5:41 p.m. Several city council members and the other community leaders called Wednesday for Philadelphia to launch a coronavirus vaccination site at the stadium complex, otherwise known as Lincoln Financial Field, and sharply criticized Mayor Jim Kenney's administration for its vaccine rollout. Philadelphia has fumbled a bit along the way in working to get vaccinations out to our residents, Council Member Alan Dom told reporters. All right. At the South Philadelphia complex, he said he has contacted local companies and organizations in an effort to propose a better vaccination plan. It was the latest blow in the political fight between Kenney and City Council amid fallout over Philly fighting COVID, the self-proclaimed group of college kids who ran a mass vaccination site for the city before the partnership collapsed and drew embarrassing national headlines. Philadelphia Health Commissioner Thomas Farley has said the administration doesn't support using sports arenas for vaccinations because it may attract residents of surrounding counties and states and wouldn't advance the city's goals of ensuring racial equity in vaccine distribution. Sir. Okay, here I go. So, you wouldn't support, and I'm not saying that the Lincoln Financial Field is the best place to be, because they're right to a certain extent that when people get off the bus, they've got to walk just to even get into the place. And if the trains don't stop, doesn't just let you off where you can find a place to go on in. But sir, right now in this city, we're seeing already, even if it's right in the neighborhoods, the folks that are able to drive and come right on in are coming in and taking the vaccination. So what exactly are you saying here? Makes no sense to me. But what I'm also noticing is that City Council is now fracturing and pulling away from Farley and Jim Kenney, which was the most interesting part of this, and they got even another mayor involved. Mike Dunn, an administration spokesperson, rejected Dom's criticism and said his stadium plan would fully derail our efforts to achieve equity. We asked Councilman Dom and other supporters this: are you deliberately trying to ensure that white privileged suburban residents of other counties and states are prioritized for vaccinations over Philly, brown, and black taxpayers of Philadelphia? Dunn said. Officials at Wednesday's news conference argued that a site, and I'll get the callers in a second, that the site at Lincoln Financial Field would be equitable and that it would be possible to limit vaccinations to Philadelphians. And as an example of how officials would confirm residency, former U.S. Rep. Bob Brady, who was also there, held up his own driver's license and waived it. The city could also invite people based on their zip code, Dom said. For those with cars, he said, SEPTA could provide express trains and buses. Officials called the plan Operation Philly Special, a reference to the famous Eagles touchdown play at the Super Bowl. President Joe Biden has called for the use of NFL stadiums as vaccination sites, and several stadiums are already in use for vaccination. Farley currently opposes a mass site at Lincoln Financial Field because those at high risk of being exposed or people with underlying conditions may not have the ability or time to travel to the other side of the city to be vaccinated, James Garrow, a health department spokesperson, said in a statement. But people, they were places where they should have gotten their vaccinations, and they were locked out again from there. So come on now. If we're going to talk about it on one end, let's talk about it on the other end. Farley hasn't ruled out the use of the stadium site for vaccinations in the future, but said it could only be done once the vaccine is more widely available. Council has also criticized the Kenney administration for working with Philly fighting COVID. In the past week, Council has introduced legislation that would give it more oversight of the vaccination contracting process and held a hearing to question officials about the partnerships. Remember me telling you earlier that the new RFP just went out yesterday, and so we will start to know who the folks are that we can trust, hear what I'm saying, that we can trust to go get our vaccines from. The health department cut ties with Philly fighting COVID, blah, 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 blah. Council member Cindy Bass, who also attended Wednesday's news conference, said she took personal offense to the administration's response that the stadium plan wouldn't advance racial equity goals. As an African-American woman born and raised in the city, I've lived racism every day. I don't have the privilege that Kenny has in his skin, Bass said. Oh, this is getting ugly. For him to tell me about what I am doing and it's wrong for my people, I am highly insulted by his statement. Oh, Lord. So here we go. So now there's a fracture in city council with the mayor, with the health commissioner, and we've called in ex-mayor Street, who was a part of this thing yesterday. So let's see what happens. All right, let's see. Ooh, look at this. I think you better call Tyrone. Hi, Tyrone.
Hello, Mother.
See, I knew I would rustle you up. Where have you been?
Well, you know, I'm telling you, celebrating my 48th anniversary. I just took another week.
Oh, I just want to make sure you were all right. Mama just wanted to make sure my buddy was all right. I want to make sure the Rona didn't get you. I want to make sure you were good and healthy. As long as I know you're fine. So, all right, that's all I needed.
Miss Reed got me smiling.
Oh, well, you tell her I said happy anniversary. Y'all go on and be your love bugs. I just want to make sure you were okay.
Thank you. She said thank you. She ain't feeling it right now. We just had a little incident at the hospital, so she got to get herself back together. But anyway, Mother, again, just thanking you for what you're doing for, our children and keeping, education on the hot plate. Because right now, the youth that I work with and, my family, I keep asking them about this virtual learning. I mean, are they really, really learning? And how is it really impacting their learning now as opposed to being in the classroom? And for the most part, they all seem to be all right with it, So I'm trying my best to become more virtually engaged so that, I can help when they need it. But right now, the young folks that I'm speaking with and trying to assist, they are okay with virtual learning. Okay. Even though all of them say they definitely want to get back into the classroom.
And it will, because, they're working out a vaccination plan. For those who want to take it, fine. Those who don't want to take it, fine. But I think enough people will take it where they'll, we'll be able to move. The numbers are going downward, thank the Lord. As they vaccinate more people, the numbers for the COVID are going down. So we're still in a bad position, don't get me wrong, but it's not as desperate as it was in the beginning of January. So, Tyrone, thank you for calling, my brother. Huh?
Mother, can I end with this? When we talk about the tales of two cities, folks can really see how significant that, piece was, because we are actually witnessing and living through the tales of a nation divided. And that's why I was saying during the insurrection, how it is so important that our young people really, really get a learning experience from that situation, because what they're going through, it is a tragedy for this country to put our young people through the things that they are putting our young folks through. Yeah. So that's why it is just so important for them to understand the whatever they call the insurrection. I say the insurrection.
Yeah, I know. Tyrone, I got a few more people on the line, but let me leave you with this, and then I got to go. Hold on. Let me leave you with this.
Thank you, Mother, for allowing me to speak.
You're quite welcome. Take it easy, my brother.
Okay.
All right.
God bless.
Bye-bye. Bye-bye. For those of you who are watching the second impeachment of citizen Donald J. Trump, please understand that what you're seeing is just the beginning of more stuff that's coming down the road. Tyrone is right in that the country is deeply divided, continues to be deeply divided, and all those people who went to the Capitol steps and infiltrated it and went back to their homes, they're our neighbors, they're living among us. They still feel the way that they do. And so you want to always be mindful of what's happening around you, because things are going to get interesting as time goes on. Let's see. Elias from North Philly, how are you?
Hey, how you doing?
I'm good. How are you?
Disgusted always, but I'm always happy and in good health, and continuing the hard work and advocating for youth and for our communities.
What's going on, Elias?
Yeah. Listen, there was this young lady that was on the phone earlier. I feel real insulted. I guess she was a professional. I don't know what was her title, but she was saying that as far as the school education, that the teachers are fully responsible of the children's failures. I come from public school, and my kids come from public school, and there's so many public school children that has honor roll. And there's so many public school children throughout the past 40-something years that I know of, and personal friends of mine that became successful, okay? And for her to say and not take it for parents, it's not parents' responsibilities. Correct me if I'm wrong here, because she really just threw the hand on.
So let me can I give you what I believe she was saying?
What I heard what she said.
Okay, so let me tell you what I believe she was saying, because when she said it, I agreed with her to an extent, and let me tell you why. There are plenty of good, solid seeds that come out of Philadelphia School District. Nobody is denying that. What we're saying is there are a lot of children that are still being left behind, and we should not leave those children behind, right? The young lady was saying that she came to Philadelphia. She was here for a year and a half doing work in the school district, and when they went through one high school, less than 20% of the high school students knew how to subtract. So for the beautiful, to the children, to the young people, to those of you who came out of the system and you thrived, it just goes to show how brilliant and beautiful and budding you all were. But there are some students who didn't have that kind of opportunity, who were passed through and passed on, right? And those are the ones that we're most concerned about, because there's a most recent report from Philadelphia School District that only 33% of third graders can read in this city. That's unconscionable. And many people are saying that's even less than that number, right? So at some point we got to start holding folks accountable for educating our children on every level, not just the educators. I believe the educators are, we have to face the things that we're dealing with, but I think at the superintendent level and at the cabinet level, I personally believe a lot of the issues are at the cabinet level, because if we get people who would work with the educators and making sure that they have processes in place and that they're doing the work that needs to be done, more children would succeed. So while I am grateful to folks like you who are doing well, and you have people that you know that are doing well, there are far too many that aren't. And this city is a dumpster fire right now as it applies to education. I don't know how else to tell you. It just is.
Okay. All right. Well, all right. So here's my thing. Does she live in a drug-infested area as we speak today? Probably not. I do, and I make a lot of money to move far away from my folks, but I don't, okay, because I'm disgusted. And what I see when I see teenage children, 12-year-olds, 10-year-olds in the street and late at night in our community, who is responsible for those kids? We're not having those conversations and pointing out and sending a message to these deadbeat fathers and these deadbeat parents and these bad adult behaviors that are going on in these homes. I see it every day. Teenagers out in the streets late at night. My children are all in their 30s. Youngest is 29, okay? They were in the house in bed by 9:30, 10 o'clock after they studied and did everything they needed to do. For what? Because the goal is to not be put in the system and heading to jail, okay?
Come on.
So
I got
we
you.
don't have these conversations about these parents and these communities. They're behind the scenes hiding and listening to everybody on the radio station and politicians blaming the school system. I had a very good relationship with teachers. And guess what? When you're a good parent and a responsible parent, you can determine if your kid is not being taught properly. And you can go to that main office and call them out. And that's not what's happening, and that's what that woman does not see. So it's a major
So let me
part.
ask
I
you
say
this. So let me
60% of the-
let me ask you this, Elias. So you want us to hold everybody accountable, not just the educators. Is that what you're saying?
No, it's not that I want everybody to be held accountable. Parents should be 60% held accountable or more, okay? I see it. I'm living it ritually. I work in the prison, okay? I'm not a CO, but I work in the prison, and I see these young men, and when I see them, I say to God, I wish that was my son. I feel sad because of these fathers, these adult parents who only have bad behaviors in these homes that we are not speaking about. There's bad behavior, the music, there's child trauma through the airwaves and the radio stations. Where's our hip hop artists that puts out these gangster rap and deplorable music and these women? Are they advocating and doing commercials and telling our children on the radio station, hey, boys and girls, this is Meek Mill, this is Jay-Z. Stay in school, first and foremost. Education is important. Stay away from drugs. Stay away from guns. Just stay away from illegal activities and respect education. No, they're nowhere around. And guess what? Mayor Kenny had Jay-Z speed dial. Call Jay-Z out and tell him to get everybody, congregate all these gangster rappers and make these commercials and put it out there in Power 99 FM, okay? You know what? They're all going to turn their heads because there's a double standard of what they're promoting out there, and they're creating. They're part of perpetuating child trauma in our home, courtesy of the parents and the bad adults with bad behaviors in these homes. I see it every day.
Thank you, Elias. I appreciate it, my brother. Thank you. Thank you so much. Elias got a point, y'all. Listen, he got a point. He got a point. There's some folks that are just not doing what they're supposed to do. He's got a point. Can't take that away from him. Reverend Joe, how are you?
Good afternoon, Ms. Andrea. This is, I'm doing fine, ma'am. This is Black History Month. I'm going to give you a couple of Black History facts. The late Dr. Maddie Humphrey, who started a ministry that I'm involved in 50 years ago this year, she was a radio personality at the #1 station in town at the time, WDAS, AM and FM. And she worked hard at trying to reprogram inmates that was coming out of the penitentiary so they could fit in and survive in the 21st century. As I said, she made me start the ministry, and that's been 50 years ago this year. Now, there's 2 million bodies, 2 million people in the penitentiary in America, and 80% of them are black, more than any other country in the world. And we need to know that. Nelson Mandela was released on this date in 1990, on February 11th, after serving 27 years in the penitentiary. So we need to talk with our young people and tell them they don't need to get caught up in this system, because this jail is a money-making system off of us. And I don't look for the white station to talk about this, because we're the ones in jail. I think the penitentiary has touched every family in Philadelphia. So when we started this ministry, a man was getting out of the prison the morning we decided to start a ministry for the men getting out. He had served 53 years and waited for prison. 5'3". He was 82 years old. We gave him his first birthday party he ever had, and he died a year later. Now here I am, same age that he was when we started this thing. So I just wanted to bring that up, and we need to really be aware of a lot of pandemics in our area with the disease and everything else. Incarceration is one of them. I don't know if you were aware of that many people in the penitentiary, but it's a disgrace. You don't have to have a young person to go to the penitentiary to learn some sense. You got to tell them it's a joke, and the joke going to be on them, because all this rapping and all that stuff they're talking about, it's designed to get you locked, put in the penitentiary. So I don't know. I had to come call and tell you that.
All right. Thank you, Reverend Joe. It's always a pleasure to hear from you. Stay healthy, okay?
Thank you, ma'am. Bye-bye.
All right. Bye-bye. I've got two more callers, Prince and George. So let me just go ahead and take a break because I know this is going to be a situation. You are listening to The Source, 96.1 FM, 900 AM, streaming live on WURDradio.com. Follow us on all social media platforms at onWURD. 215-634-8065 is the number to call in. We will be right back after these messages.
Okay, Her's new fire potato chips and cheese curls, they are spicy. Whew, they're hottest snacks yet. Hold on. Whew. But you know, it's not just heat. There's some nice sweet and savory stuff going on too. Ooh, there's that heat again. It burns, but it burns so tasty. Ooh, that's hot. Find Her's Fire Snacks at your store today. Whew. Taste the flavor, feel the heat, break out the Her's.
Parents, teachers, guardians, 100 Black Men of Philadelphia offers a free mentoring program for boys in 1st through 12th grades every 1st and 3rd Saturday. Students will engage in age-appropriate youth development, career exploration, critical thinking, and leadership activities. Students can earn monthly stipends for participation and are eligible for electronic gift cards, prizes, and scholarships. Register today at www.100blackmenphilly.org or call 267-258-2900.
This WURD Wellness Vignette is brought to you by Premium Nutrition Meals. WURD Radio presents the following wellness tip to support our listeners with mindfulness and motivation as we continue to navigate the pandemic together.
Hi, this is Helana, your resident health and wellness coach, with tips to help you stay well. Today we're going to talk about green living made easy. So what exactly is green living? It simply means we consider the environment in the way we use, reuse, and recycle every day. When we monitor the waste we create in our homes, we can have a positive impact on the environment, both locally and globally. Green living can look like this. Number 1. Wash and reuse your glass bottles and jars from the grocery store. Number 2. Recycle your paper products, boxes, and plastic. Number 3. Make your own cleaning products to reduce chemical pollution inside your home. Green living is something we can all do to support our overall health, personally and in our communities. Go ahead and try it today. Stay well with WURD. Happy living.
Stay well with WURD. Connect with us at WURDradio.com. This WURD Wellness Vignette was brought to you by Premium Nutrition Meals. This is not a fad for us. We will not resume our regular programming when things die down. We're not black to help our bottom line or because it's politically correct. We're not joining a fight. This has been our fight, our message, our people. Black lives have always mattered here. We are undeniably, indefatigably, unapologetically, permanently Black Talk Media. WURD.
You're listening to The Source with Andrea Lawful Sanders on WURD Radio. Streaming live on WURDradio.com and the WURD Radio app.
Good afternoon and welcome back to The Source. If you're just joining us, this hour belongs to the WURD listeners. And so I can't wait. Prince, how are you?
Hey, good afternoon. How are you?
Good afternoon, sir. I am fine, thank you. What's going on?
Man, did you hear the passion that residents and citizens in this city have? You know. So did you see the press conference with Alan?
Child.
And
Prince, don't
Bob
get me
Brady,
started.
you know,
Prince, I
guys
just
that
read
there?
the whole thing just now. Prince. Your thoughts, sir?
So no, we can't have it at the link because the link is just as unfriendly as it is during the time that you've got those events down there. They don't embrace us. You know, unless you got the money for box seats, you know, from the parking all the way to the concession is not African American friendly, and it's too far to travel. So during this pandemic, let's give the mayor an opportunity to do something that he didn't think of. And so let's network with the Housing Authority. There's a place located on Germantown Avenue between Cambria and Somerset. It's over 20,000 square foot of space. We spent over $6 million to build it out for an adult day center that we've never used. It's fully complete with coming in one door and leaving out the other door. It has a medical facility inside of there as well, bathrooms and a lobby area, thousands of square feet, so you don't have to worry about 6 foot distance. Or as a caveat to that, yes, you use the one at 1800 South 32nd Street, which is another building that was Philadelphia Housing Authority building that has easy access off of the expressway. And these two places and these two urban neighborhoods would assure you that the residents in South Philly and the residents in Germantown or Lehigh and North Philly can, if not be the first, but can be at least the deliverables will reach them. You know, and you can clearly identify people who are coming from somewhere else to fit in that line. You can't clearly identify them if they're in zip code 50 or zip code 18 or zip code 19 or zip code 38 because they could be coming from Chestnut Hill. You know what I mean?
Or their license could delineate who they are, though, or their ID cards or a bit whatever. See, we just did away with ID during the time of voting. So these a lot of folks are trying to get the vaccine without getting a confrontation of having or not having. You know what I mean? Because you started giving it out without all these qualifications, and then your biggest problem is the mask. You got 76% of people who look like you in city council. Out of the 76%, 100% of them got the vaccine. And yet people who look like them, only 8% or 10% now has it. That's your biggest problem. Everybody want to ignore that factor right there. When you stand in front of Cindy Bass, her first question should be, did she get the vaccine? Oh, wait a minute. Let me ask you this. But you see now that city council members are, because I think Derek Green was a part of that press conference yesterday, are splitting away from the mayor and the health department, and they're asking, you know, they're upset. So, and Cindy Bass was a part of that group. So yeah, but let me tell you something. When it's almost like when you get the internal affairs to investigate the police. So Cindy, you're gonna be mad when you are the chair of the health commissioner, health commission on this right here. You can't be mad because it is your unequivocal responsibility to make sure that all the I's are dotted and T's are crossed. And so when I seen that yesterday. Alan Dobbs took the job at city council for $1 with the anticipation of running for mayor. You know what I mean? Call a spade a spade. He wants to run for mayor. Bob Brady's going to support him running for mayor. And every council person that stood behind him, he's going to be their fiduciary to go out and be surrogates for him to run for mayor. So we got to stop looking at these photo ops as an opportunity for us to listen to them when the reality is that they are using these photo ops and they're building ground so they can come and keep trying to save our community. And at the end of the day, you know, and Alan Dobbs not a bad dude. At least he'll come to a meeting. But at the end of the day, all of them would do that. Bukovitz and everybody would do that if they have a ultimate goal. And the ultimate goal is to be mayor. So the blueprint given to these Caucasians by by black people is feed them, you know, have them come out, get something to eat, feed them, and that's how you get to meet them and network with them, and that's how come they keep you poverty. But they would never go on a job site and ask the guy if he registered to vote who's an African-American on a job site. You know what I mean? You won't even put them on job sites, so why would you go to a job site? And that's how we need to start getting people to vote for people. We need to go to job sites. And if they're on these job sites, then we need to talk with them. And I guess my last issue is when we you know, collectively, we got to stop fighting each other. And it has to be a central location that we all come together and not agree to disagree, because we can't have that anymore, because every time you do that, somebody seems to run back to the man and tell him what's going on. But you have to have a sincere group of folks that are advocating for at least some tangible results. We're not getting that. We're all over the place. You know, we're sharing one conversation in the morning, and then it's powerhouse on your show, and then it dies off on the next show. And we if you keep saying we're the only black station, then there needs to be some congruency and some cohesiveness between us all. We're callers aren't fighting against the host. Callers are calling in saying, hey, I got eyes on this block right here. You might not have them. This is what's going on. But it's not a fight, and it shouldn't be so advantageous that everything is a battle, because it's disrespectful. Because everybody here, you disrespect a caller, and they're going to be upset about that, because you shouldn't be disrespecting anybody. But we're not fighting against any host. We're
fighting to service the city of Philadelphia because we're being deprived right at the front line. And that's what I wanted to say, and I'll hang up and I'll listen to the
All
show.
right. Well, thank you, Prince. Thank you, sir. You have a good one. All right. Bye-bye. All right. Rick from Germany, how are you?
This is your brain-damaged brother.
How are you, sir? You held on for over an hour. God bless you.
I love you, and tell your husband he has to share you with many, many people.
I will tell him. I will tell him, Rick. What's
I
going on?
got a couple of questions after listening to your panel.
Mm-hmm.
How many schools have closed in Philadelphia, physical brick and mortar buildings, between 1980 and say 2008?
I have to find out. Do you know?
I don't know, but that's a good question.
All right, I'm going to find out.
If you gut the physical buildings, close the physical buildings, and flip everybody over to charter schools and private schools and parochial schools, and and the public school has been downsized to the point where it cannot manage poverty and middle class people anymore. Yes. I think that's an issue for Joe Biden. Second, I want to agree with the brother caller who works the prison system, who says that the parents are not off the hook. You know, some parents are dealing with a lost childhood. They will smoke in front of their children. They will play loud music while the child is trying to study. And I don't hate them, but I ask them to think about the way they're living and impacting their children.
Yes.
You know, if you're sexing with a partner while your child is going to school and trying to focus on school, and your child is worrying about how the teachers are looking at them, how their neighbors are looking at them, you know, you got to think about that as a parent. The parents are not off the hook.
You're right.
You know, you got to know where your child is when they're not at home. And third, physicians are not off the hook either. Tuberculosis is a very real disease, and it's not just in the lungs anymore. Alcoholism in our race is very real, and it impacts the brain of children who are born to alcoholic parents. Drug-addicted children born from drug-addicted parents, it affects the brain. And lastly, I'll close with this. Joe Biden has to put not only teachers in schools, in the public schools, but he has to staff those schools with a psychiatrist, a nurse, a librarian, and a counselor.
Okay, agreed. Thank you, Brother Rick. Have a good one, okay?
I love you, and I'm listening.
Yes, sir. All right. So while Rick was talking, I looked up in 2012 and 2013, they said more than 10% of the schools were closed in Philadelphia. And around 2019, another 30 were closed, based on what I'm looking at on Google. So I don't know how many schools, how many buildings are empty at this point. We really need to look up what that looks like in raw numbers. But he made me look. So, Lord. Thank you, Rick. I appreciate it. All right now, George. George, you left me? Is George gone? Okay. All right. Tell him to call back. Gary?
Good afternoon, Andrea. How are you?
Good afternoon, sir. How are you?
I'm good. Man, I don't even know what to say now after following some of the previous callers.
They're good.
Prince in particular, what he was saying, I mean, he kind of pretty much laid it all out. But we were talking about the schools and the parenting. You know, that's one area where we really need to do a lot better. Parents have to be engaged with their children and with the schools and what they have available at the schools and what they lack, because we lack a lot in our public schools. It is really shameful.
It's no way.
Let me ask you this, Gary, because I have had the opportunity before COVID hit, maybe about 3-4 years ago. The Black Women's Leadership Council had a Saturday convening someplace in Philadelphia, and then I showed up, and there was this large conversations about the conditions of the Philadelphia schools. I'm not talking 20 years ago. I'm talking a couple of years ago.
Yes.
And there were educators in that room and community members who said they've gone into buildings where there were no toilet paper in the buildings.
Yes.
The buildings were old and decrepit. I've been in some of them. I've seen it. And I've been in them where there were no toilet papers in them when I was trying to help, volunteer in there. That children were defecating in the hallway and peeing on themselves because the bathrooms were closed. They didn't have an operating bathroom. No nurses. So my question is, what are we asking students to go back to?
Right. In that kind of environment, how would you expect someone to really learn? As I said before, my years being an auditor and going out to the schools and auditing and interviewing teachers and principals and administrators and all that, I've seen all that, and it's real. Yeah. Going to the men's room is water flooding all over the floor.
Yes.
You understand
and
what I'm saying?
Bars everywhere.
And this has been for a long time, Andrea, and it's like, but our children are subjected to go into buildings like that. How is that a positive learning environment? When you're in a building that's decaying, you have lead paint, you have asbestos, and it's not an environment that you would want to be in to learn anything. And I just wanted to add also, parents have got to be more outraged. They should be up at those schools and forming a line around and say, look, we're shutting this down. Our children are not going inside of a building like this anymore. We've got to do better. One of the previous callers was saying something about our children, and if you think about the music that they listen to, and I blame a lot of the artists who put out a lot of this music with the certain lyrics that our children are emulating, and then you have to watch what you're feeding yourself visually when you look at BET and a lot of the things that are on there. So when I go out, when I look at the news sometimes at night, I think I'm looking at BET. It's not fashionable and it's not right. I know some of the parents are out there struggling and they're working 2 and 3 jobs, and sometimes they just can't get to the school, but we still have to do a better job. And then the people that we have entrusted to be looking out for us, I don't know what to say about them anymore.
So let me ask you this, Gary. Who does it, and I already know the answer to this question. It's rhetorical for me. Who does it serve that our district buildings are falling apart this way, that money can't be found, that, things are just, who does it serve that such large swaths of children are not able to do well in our urban public school systems?
You know who it serves? If you follow the money in a lot of cases, developers, once those schools say close down, developers come in and turn them into condos. Gentrification is real.
Or a football field, brand new. One school building was only a couple years old. They took it down and made it a field for Temple University. And I'm like, and so where are our children going? And the interesting thing was, if they had taken out the dilapidated buildings, I could understand. But a state-of-the-art, millions of dollars of building was, because it was right in location at Temple University, and I don't know what they got that space for.
Well, whose district is that? Okay, I'm gonna leave it there. Okay, and we know what school we're talking about. Whose district is that? They don't care about us, Andrea, and we need to understand and realize that, and we have to come together as black people in this city and in this nation in particular, and unite and be together on the same page. Because see, they have us divided and going at one another. That's not helping us. So we have to really, and I say it all the time, it's the people that we pay their salaries that are supposed to be looking out for us. All my years working for city government, if I wasn't going out doing those audits and doing the things I was supposed to do, Alan Buckovich, Jonathan Seidel, I wouldn't have my job.
Right.
Okay? Right. This is shameful what's going on now. And I'm tired of, I think one of the other callers called in, was speaking about our sometimes when we get into debates with the host and back and forth, you know what? We don't have time for that. We know what's going on. We all have to be on the same page, basically. Not basically, be on the same page, because our communities, our children are being neglected. The high crime rate, this is not all happening by chance, Andrea.
Oh, I know it's not.
I know we're responsible for our actions, but when certain things are put in place, this is the result that you're going to get. And like I said before, I was only blessed to be able to send my children to private school. They went on the master, and it's not like I said, it's not a bragging thing, but I thank God that my wife and I were able to sacrifice to do that. Everybody doesn't have those resources, and that's not an excuse. Our schools should be state-of-the-art that our children go to. When you go out in Montgomery County, go on the main line, see what kind of schools they go to.
And go up to Abington, right up the street, where they have a brand new $25 million addition to their high school. You know, and then you wonder why parents are running to get out of the city to go find somewhere else to go to school, you know.
Andrew.
But I got to take a break, man. All right.
I just want to add this. You know, if it wasn't for the fact that I worked for the city of Philadelphia, we would have been out the city, because my wife said that straight up the first when, you know, we started having children. But because I worked for the city, that's why I went the other route. And thank God I was able to be successful in doing that. Thank you.
Oh, you're quite welcome, sir. Have a good one, okay? All right, bye-bye. I know I have 3 more callers, Marilyn, George, and Bree. Hold on one second. Let me take a quick break. The last few minutes of this show belongs to you. This is why I can't get to the news. Y'all are just, but I love you, so we're going to talk. You are listening to The Source, 96.1 FM, 900 AM, streaming live on WURDradio.com. Follow us on all social media platforms at onWURD. 215-634-8065 is the number to call in. If you are hearing the sound of my voice, I am Andrea Lawful Sanders, and we will be right back after these messages.
Recovery starts with a call. Pennsylvania's Substance Use Disorder Hotline is staffed by real people who are trained to help. They're here 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. They'll get you or your loved one into treatment regardless of your access to insurance. If you or someone you know is suffering from addiction, call 1-800-662-HELP. Recovery starts with a call.
Paid for with Pennsylvania taxpayer dollars.
Jefferson Health offers no-cost COVID-19 testing sites at St. Raymond of Pinafort Church. Testing is on Thursdays and Saturdays. The second testing location has been added at Richard Allen Preparatory Charter School. Testing is on Wednesdays and Fridays. For testing hours and more information, visit jeffersonhealth.org/community testing.
Your child deserves to be educated in a safe and supportive learning environment. Southwest Leadership Academy Charter School, a tuition-free public school, is accepting applications for the 2021-2022 school year. SLAC's 2 locations offer single-gender classrooms in a dual-gender environment. Kindergarten and first-grade classrooms have a 15-to-1 student-teacher ratio. Students learn music, art, and fitness. Southwest Leadership educates the whole child, preparing students to become leaders. slacks-phila.org, Instagram at Southwest Leadership Academy, or email info@slacks-phila.org.
The WURD Radio newsletter, keeping you informed, engaged, and connected. Sign up by visiting WURDradio.com. Scroll to the bottom of the page and type your email address under Connect with Us. You'll receive the latest information on WURD Radio, messages from our president and CEO, Sarah Lomax Reese, exclusive articles and multimedia content, and resources. Stay informed with the WURD Radio newsletter.
Tune in Saturdays from 2 p.m. to 3 p.m. to hear Empire Capital and Consulting founder Mark Palmer's show titled Black Money, Black Power. This show centers around black money and how black power is derived from money. Tune in every Saturday from 2 p.m. to 3 p.m. Black Money, Black Power. Hosted by Mark Palmer.
WURD Radio is independent black media, and we're able to stay independent because of our 4WURD movement and members like you.
Treat yourself to the treat of buying a WURD membership. It's less than a quarter a day. That's less than a bag of chips. And we really, truly need to keep this platform going so that we can stay connected as we reimagine our community in 2021.
Start or renew your 4WURD membership today at WURDradio.com/4WURD or call 215-425-7875. WURD Radio. Independent Black Media.
You're listening to The Source with Andrea Lawful Sanders on WURD Radio. Streaming live on WURDradio.com and the WURD Radio app.
Welcome back to The Source. We have 11 minutes left before I have to get off this air. I have 1, 2, 3, 4 callers. Let's see if we can get everybody in, shall we? Marilyn, Good afternoon.
Good afternoon.
What can I do?
I'm calling. I'd like to say, first of all, that I'm not politic at all.
Okay.
But it seems to me that they are creating, just from casually listening to the news, Philadelphia seems to be a feudal, medieval type of place. And they're setting up a fiefdom over there with these people at this link. And a few people, serfs that they have following them, will get the shot. Some of us haven't gotten the shot. Even though Mayor Kenny messed up and what's his name, Farley, I think they may have been chastened by what happened. And I do believe, it is my belief, that there's, and I know from hearing the news all over, that there are limited numbers of the vaccine available. And I think that it should be kept, it should not go to the link. If you had noticed that people are getting millions of dollars for food distribution, and they had these things at the link, and all these people from Jersey came over getting all these boxes of food, and that's what's going to happen with the vaccine.
You know, Marilyn, when I said it, when it was happening with the food, and I spoke about it when I heard that they were doing the food distribution at the link, and I said something, someone said to me, well, what do you expect? All they're going to do is put it in their cars, and they're going to drive off. And I said, see, that's myopic thinking. You're assuming that everybody is coming through there has a car to drive, or even if they're borrowing somebody's car, that they have the gas to get out there. And so we have to make sure that when we're giving away these kinds of things, they're accessible to the people who need them the most.
Exactly. That's why I agree with the Farley Kenny thing. Let's not go to the link. We take a page out of this voting where we were able to go to the Louis Kurz Center and to various places. I heard that they spent $60 million to refurbish these schools to get them ready. You could go into the auditorium of some of these schools in our neighborhood and give out the shots. We should have the shots that are given to Philadelphia to be provided for the citizens of Philadelphia. So, and I wish people would let Kenny and them hear that people support them for keeping the vaccine for Philly people and not going to the link. That's all I have to say. Thank you.
All right. Well, thank you for calling in, Miss Marilyn. It's always a pleasure to hear from you. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye. George.
Good afternoon, and how are you, Andrea? Look, the lady's right. If you go to the link, that means everybody gets it except that. Also, remember now, Kenny's smart on this here. Most elderly people are not computer literate. Everybody thinks in terms of this super knowledge that they have with computers. Maurice and Maurice had about maybe 5 senior complexes he had. I got about maybe 10 that I deal with. We had people, young people from college interns, who fill out the thing and try to put people on the list in the part of the city that they're in. Now, you see more white people up there in North Philly and up on Lehigh Avenue at Deliverance than you see black. You know why? They get on the computer, and they have computers, laptops, and everything, and they work at it.
So did you hear me talk about Dr. Ayla saying that she shut it down so that her black folks can show up and get their vaccines? Did you hear me talk about that?
But you have to have an appointment.
No, you do not. Listen, see, that's why I need you to call in and talk to me. You do not. As of March 1st, you do not need an appointment.
That.
See?
Well, everybody, I'm glad you're saying that because everybody under the illusion that you have to have an appointment.
No appointment. As of March 1st, you don't need an appointment. What she'll say, the Black Doctors COVID will tell you exactly where they're going to be. WURD Radio always puts that information out in our commercials. I'll find out from her. Dr. Ayla will text me and say, we're going to be here this week.
Let me try to get this other thing in.
Wait. Let me tell folks. Wait, George, hold on. I ain't rushing you. Hold on. Wait. Okay. And then we'll let people know, and then they'll show up in their vaccines. You do not have to have an appointment to get your vaccines as of March 1st with the Black Doctors COVID-19 Consortium. She's just going to open it up, first come, first serve. And I think it's the best way to get folks who can't get online and fill out those computer sheets to get in. All right, go ahead, George.
And you know what? I'm glad you're one of the few hosts that sat there and explained something to people instead of promoting your ideology and all that other foolishness. You know, you're talking to the people. You're talking to the listeners. And you have a lot of respect for listeners. That's one thing I can say. A lot of people get this microphone in their hand and they just totally disrespectful to the public, to the listeners, to the callers, everybody. They think it's all about them. But that's here nor there. Let me say this here, and I never say anything about callers, but Gary I know very well. And Gary chokes. Gary know more than I know, okay? Gary is very knowledgeable of how things work and how things go. But he always play the slow roll. I don't know why, but he do. Gary can bury anybody he wants in a matter of minutes. But he sits there and build on a whole pity wagon. I don't understand that. And Gary, if you know him personally, you know he's not that kind of guy that chokes. I mean, he comes on the radio and he goes into some religious type choke type thing where he could like wipe somebody out in like maybe 5 minutes.
All right, so if you know him personally, why don't you have this conversation with him personally, George?
I don't tell people how to say things or what to say.
But you're on that. But now you're talking about it. I'm saying if there's an art with your brother, go talk to him privately, and then we can talk about it. You see what I'm saying?
Listen, he will. He's listening, and he will use what I'm saying. It's like he almost got. Sometimes you got to get a person with a start, and they do. Believe me, he will come back now and feel freely to go ahead. He knows for a fact because he was one of the ones who investigated when the school system, when Dwight Evans and John Purcell took over the school system in the Park Authority. It was Dwight Evans who single-handedly destroyed the Philadelphia public school system, and he's responsible for Hite being here. You know why? Because in return, Hite kept all his people, right, and hired all the other consultants. The dumber they keep you, the more consultants work. That's the way it goes here. It's all about a buddy system. Friends and family, payoffs, checks, get a job, get a contract, take care of friends. That's just the way they do. They can't help themselves. One other thing, Andrea, if you get the commissioner on, which it looks like it's getting slimmer and slimmer because people biting your back out, if she comes on and she has the heart.
Wait a minute. Did you say something about somebody biting my back out?
Oh, yeah, Negroes always biting your back out. You think they like what you do? You coming up too fast for them, and you getting there without kissing up, You're not washing feet and putting chapstick and knee pads on, so you're earning yours.
So let me say this. Let me say this, George. I am aware that they're there. I see them. I see them when they think I don't see them. And I deliberately say certain things to see what they're going to go back and do. So if Commissioner Outlaw does not show up on my show, I know exactly who did it. I'm telling you, right. I know exactly who did it. Right? And so for me, what I want the folks of this listening audience to understand is this. This is not personal for me. This is about the people that live and are doing what they need to have done in this city. And I am not afraid to start talking about the things that are important. They better get it. They better get it, George. They better get it. They better get it. Because I'm telling you, the people of this city mean way more to me than popularity. This is not a popularity contest. It has never been. And so I've said this to folks before I got on this air. I have said it while I've been on this air. You want to know? Call Montgomery County. I never played the games. I will never play the games here. I'm not that kind of host, right? So we're here for the efficacy of the people that are on this in this city. And so if this is a popularity contest, they don't ever have to show up. So what I will do is step over them and start bringing in national speakers, which is what I have been doing, right? So we can't get the superintendent. Wait a minute, if we can't get the commissioner of police here in Philadelphia to show up because of people trying to bite out the backs of folks because they don't agree, then I will get the commissioner of police in other states to show up, and we'll talk about it. We've been doing it. So this is neither here nor there for me, but I thank you for confirming what I already knew. I saw one of them last night, and I said, let me see what happens with this one.
Well, the fun part is when it gets to my table, I kills it right there. Oh, really? The backbiters, huh? People don't think you know what's going on. I mean, they should know I know, but, you know, I tell them, don't mess around and I put you out there. You know, I hang them out to dry. But they don't understand that you had that pot cooking. And it's simmering real good. It's simmering.
They have no idea. No idea, George. So let me keep playing the game.
Let me say this one other thing.
Mm-hmm.
They had a meeting here about one day last week where, like, all the top law
quickly, because I have 1 minute. 1 minute.
Yeah. And they told the commissioners people, they said, listen, it's not our responsibility to stop all these shootings in the city of Boston, but it's really messing up with our investigations and what we're doing. This is the way you can stop it real quick and easy. All these cars is riding around here with tinted windows and everything. Stop them. Get all the guns out of it or whatever it is. Just pull them over. Take their cars or whatever. But your crime will cut in half instantly. You know what the dummy said? Oh, well, I don't think we can do that, dear, because what that got to do with stopping this? Oh, that's right. We can't even stop them. You know, we have to get a warrant to search their cars. So therefore, our commanders tell us not to bother them.
Yes. Mm-hmm. Yeah.
That's the problem
George,
there. So,
yes. All right, George, it's 3:55. Love you, man. I got to go because I can't hold up Nick Taliaferro. Have a good one, okay? All right, bye-bye. Bree, I'll get you on Monday. Call me back, honey. And Maurice, I know you called in and hung up, but I've tried to get all of you in, and I've tried to listen to all of you. I just want to say thank you. It is Thursday. We have, as Michael said, George always has 1 more things to say, and it is now 3:56. Coming up next is Evening Words with Nick Taliaferro. When I come back on Monday, I'm going to address some things with you, but I am Andrea Lawful Sanders. I'll see you when I see you. Goodbye.